At the end of the Civil War, it's rumored that the Confederate gold worth nearly $1 million was buried somewhere here in Wilkes County. Today, the AMSOIL Grand National Cross Country Championship Series makes its way into beautiful Wilkes County, and one rider will surely strike gold with a big win here today. Hello everyone, I'm Rodney Tomlin, and welcome to wet and wonderful Washington, Georgia, as we get set for round number 2 of the AMSOIL Grand National Cross Country Championship Series presented by Maxxis and AMA National Championship. Along with Jen Kenyon and Johnny Gallagher, we've got a great show planned for you today, and really the big storyline here is the rain. It started falling early this morning, and it's gotten worse and worse as the day has progressed. Now, if you talk to the youth riders, the track wasn't so bad. The 10 o'clock race is starting to get a little bit choppier, but if you talk to some of the pro riders, like Caleb Russell, he's really excited about the rain. It could even the playing field. What's these riders going to be faced with in these muddy conditions? Let's head on down and see Barry Hawk and see what this track looks like.
Hello everyone, we're here at the Maxxis General GNCC. We have an 11-mile track laid out for everyone. They take off the start here. Got a big grass track section. It's going to lead down into the woods, and at the 1.5 they're going to have a little mud hole to go through. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too much trouble for the guys, but about the 3-mile marker, the AMSOIL 3-mile marker, there's going to be a mud hole. The first lap is going to be really good, but I think later in the race it's going to get really rough, and the guys are going to need some pick some good lines through there. From there, it's going to lead them up into the pro pits towards the 7-mile marker to the sorry about that, there to the towards the 5-mile marker to the 6-mile marker. 6.5-mile marker, there's a log jump. They can choose to go over the log jump or around the log jump, and I think that's another place where it'd be a good passing line, so definitely going to be exciting down there. From there, at the 8-mile marker, there's another really bad mud hole. It's really wide down there, but I think, again, as long as the guys pick a good line, they'll get through it no trouble. And it's going to be one of those places, again, where there's going to be plenty of passing opportunities as long as they pick a good line. At the 9-mile marker, we have a mulch pile that it's nice and smooth right now, but by the time first lap it's going to be smooth, but every lap it's going to get rougher and rougher, and I think that's probably going to be one of the most exciting points on the track is that mulch pile, because it's going to get really, really rough. From there towards the 10-mile marker into the 11 and into the finish line. So hopefully everybody can leave here and enjoy the race, and back to you, Jen.
Slick and very challenging. However, they made it. And today at 1 o'clock, the green flag gets set to wave as America's best and the world's best motorcycle racing pilots get set to charge into turn number 1. Who will strike gold here today with a big win? Time will tell as we meet our top riders in the XC1 Pro class. Rolling to the line first after opening up with a season win, the season opener win, aboard the number 112. He hails from Hickory, North Carolina on an FMF KTM Hot Rod, Charlie Mullins. Rolling to the line second in points today after finishing second just 1 week ago. He rides aboard the number 5, a former GNCC champion himself from New Zealand on an NFAB and Pro Yamaha, backed by Kenda, Factory Connection, MSR, as well as Monster Energy, Paul Whibley. Rolling to the line third in points today. He is currently riding aboard the number 4. He hails from Australia on an N-Style, NFAB, and Pro Yamaha, Josh Strang. Coming to the line fourth today. He hails from Williamstown, West Virginia on a Shenandoah USWE FMF Troy Lee Honda, Thad Duvall. Rolling to the line today, 5th in points after the season opener. He rides aboard the number 10. A rookie in 2014 from Morgantown, Pennsylvania on a factory-backed Husqvarna, backed by FMF, Bell Ray, and Ride PG, Andrew DeLong. Rolling to the line 6 today in points. Should be the 814. Hailing out of 514. Hailing out of South Carolina on an FMF KTM. Stu Baylor. Rolling to the line today, 7th in points after the season opener. Riding aboard the number 7 machine on an MFAB M-Pro Yamaha from Cookeville, Tennessee, Jordan Ashburn. Rolling to the line 8th today in points. He rides aboard the number 264 from Ekron, Kentucky on a KTM from the motocross and supercross side of the world. Say hello to Ryan Sipes. Rolling to the line 9th today in points after the season opener from Boonville, North Carolina. Your defending GNCC champion on an FMF KTM, Caleb Russell. Rolling to the line today, 10th in points. He rides aboard the number 12, a former Japanese cross-country champion on an HR Palmer Thumper Motivations Dunlop Moose Racing Maxima-backed Honda, Takeshi Koiketa. And now rolling to the line next, he rides aboard the number 222 from the shop in Pennsylvania. On board the Suzuki, Nick Davis. Rolling to the line 12th today, he rides aboard the number 3 from Crown Point, Indiana, Chris Bach. Rolling to the line next aboard the number 376 from Blunteville, Tennessee, but I would say by way of Japan on a Let's Racing Honda, Ride Center USA, south of the border backed Honda machine, Masahiro Kobayashi. Rolling to the line today, 14. He rides aboard the number 16 from Morrison, Illinois. He rides aboard the KTM, Adam Bonor. And last and certainly not least, rolling to the line 15th today, aboard the number 9 machine. He hails from England on a Dirtwise Riding Academy KTM, a former XC2 Pro Lights Class champion, Jason Thomas. And that, ladies and gentlemen, your starting lineup for this, the Maxxis General GNCC. And as we all well know, it's about time to go. So let's fire them up, guys, and get them warmed up. Fire them up, warm them up. Let's get ready to go GNCC racing. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, as the stage is set, the rain falls. Jen Kenyon joining us here right now. Jen, I got to tell you, man, there's a lot of variables that could shake loose here today. And, you know, this mud, as they always say, is the great equalizer.
That's right, Rodney. You know, we've got a lot of great riders out here. We know that they can ride fast, they can ride smart in the dry conditions. But today we're really going to see who the smartest, strongest and maybe luckiest rider is out there.
I think luck is going to have to play a lot of part in it. You know, we see a lot of these machines nowadays, they're so high-tech, they push so much power, so much horsepower, that of course they tend to overheat, and that's going to be one of the issues today, especially here in the clay of Georgia.
Yeah, for sure. Talking with those morning riders, they were saying that the track isn't too bad as far as the condition of it, but the thing that's really going to get you are those standing water puddles. So these guys are going to have to be really smart when they come up to a section and decide, should I go through that mud puddle? Is it deep or is it okay? So that's going to be really the biggest thing. Well,
the good news is we've got a 100% chance of rain. It's going to continue raining. That might sound bad, but in reality, that's good because it's going to help keep these machines cleaned off and hopefully help them run a little cooler today.
Oh, that's right. I just can't wait to get this thing underway and see what's going to shake down.
I agree with you 100%, Jen Kenyon, as we turn our attention now down to the first turn region where Ricky Towery, our official start man and finish line flagger, is signaling to the riders that we have 1 minute to the start of this Maxxis General GNCC here on this soggy Sunday afternoon. And all attention turns down to Ricky Towery. Soon that blue flag will come out, which will signal a dead engine call, and we're only 30 seconds away from making things happen as far as GNCC Racing is concerned. Shut them down, guys. Shut them down. Shut them down. The blue flags are out, so shut them down. As we get set to go GNCC Racing, I got to ask you, Georgia race fans, are you ready to go GNCC Racing? Come on, Georgia. I know it's a little wet, it's a little soggy, it's a little cold, but we got to heat things up. I got to ask you one more time. Are you ready to go GNCC Racing? 10 seconds. And row number 1, the XC1 Pro, will be off and rolling at our Maxxis General GNCC. $250 up for grabs in the All Balls Racing Whole Shot Award. Who's it going to be? It's the number 4 Yamaha. That's Josh Strain grabbing the $250. Paul Whibley back in the number 2 spot. And it's the M-Fat boys in style up front to kick things off here at the Maxxis General GNCC. Next row, XC2 Pro Lights. 33 of these guys, including defending class champion Grant Baylor, Shane Hufford, Roy Mead, Lane Michael, Trevor Bollinger, Jedediah Haynes, Sam Evans, Christopher Douglas, Michael McGinnis, Zach Love, Derek Allen, Alex Beadenhart. Also Zach Osborne, Justin Sode, Ricky Russell, Jesse Grome, Lucas Statham, Cole Hensley, Philip Cheney, and more in 10 seconds. $33 riders barreling into that first turn now. And it is the number 11, Shane Hufford. Hufford taking over the early lead out there. And I'll tell you what, Hufford has certainly made a name for himself in the last couple of years of racing here in GNCC. 258 class coming up next. We got Anthony Stone, Craig DeLong, Spencer Burke, Mason Pratt, Dylan Stout, Austin Lee, Ethan Przinski, Jesse Arsenal, Mike Wachowski, Matthew Nix, Preston Wheeler, Aled Humphreys, Caleb Haynes, Caleb Ward, Mason Atherton, JoJo Bowden, also Alex B. Roth, Peyton Randolph, Hunter Hutchinson, Derek Gasper, Gary Myers, Zachary Sanders, Kerry Eberts, Marc-Andre Baudouin, Richard Melise, and also we got Devin Clugston, David Reed, and Alexandre Gugon in 10 seconds. $258 riders are off and rolling. The 27 of Craig DeLong on that Husqvarna Maxxis Enduro Engineering back machine gets a good jump off the line. What happens to the first couple of turns, though? He's got it. So he picks it up. 4-stroke A lights coming up next. Brady Myers, Alex Teagarden, Cody Pingley, Levi Keller, Van McCarran, Andrew France, Evan Earl, Tristan Stumbo, Patrick Massey, Ryan Slopko, Dalton Cross, Ethan Yadis, also Cole Kirkhoff, Nathan Zicklow, Glenn Drum, Jacob Kritzman, Joshua Lee, Luke Parsons, Alec Wiskowski, Zeb Gronick, Cody Jeffers, Tristan Landerman, Jake Froman in 10 seconds. And the 4-stroke A lights class is off, and skiing maybe, scooting, sliding around the first turn. Oh, getting a couple of guys together. Nobody goes down, though. And look at this coming out of it all. The 381 threading that needle right there. I don't know if that was Pat Massey or not, but whoever it was, they went down. 208, Logan Papul, John Hugel, Zachary Ferentz, also Christopher Venditti, Nick Mellinger, Clint Masters, Michael Pillar, Taylor Johnson, also Joseph Tempesta, Mark Zurisman, James Skinner, Brandon Gearing, and Jonathan Johnson. And I don't think Brandon's actually racing with us today, but he is here with us, thankfully. Having a little bit of an illness there. Ready to roll in 10 seconds. And they're off. It is Yamaha mounted ride. Looks like 407. No, we got a 13. Which his number does not coincide on his bike with his riding number, so not real sure who that's going to be. We'll go to the Vet A 30 plus class. Joe Marsh, Big Jim Steiner out there aboard that 665. That A30 Plus, the oldest guy in his class at 43 years old, by the way. The 105, Matt Bosch, and also TJ Ernie, Brian Hollingshead, Alexandre Legault, Wesley Triplet, Rudy Austin from England. Welcome back, buddy, and David Galliano. '65 machine. Big Jim Steiner, the old guy. Look at that, man. He's hooking up. And Big Jim's got this one. He comes out of New York. He's one of the top riders out of Wainoa in his division, and comes out here to the Nationals and just has a great time with his family. Glad to have Big Jim and the whole Steiner family with us. Kenny Hawkins coming up in the senior 840 plus class with Harry Engelhart, John Leonard, Josh Scott, Francis Coruscant. We got Bob Bergman, Mark LaBelle, Brian Villanova, Ronald Awad, Patrick Tobin, and Patrick Tremblay. They're off and rolling. Split rows there, I guess. Senior A, 40 plus class, I believe, is what we got. Oh, yeah, baby. 8:02, grabbing the early lead in that one again. Doesn't coincide with any of my paperwork, so. 4-stroke B lights class, Matthew White, Josh Lyons, Justin Leonard, Hunter McDaniels, Mason Stevens, Garrett Skidmore, Trey Jefferson, Dakota Sims, Hunter Ayers, Josh McDonald, Drew Bolton, Chris McManus, Michael Tetlow, Garrett Duncan, also Blake Ovitt, Garrett Coe, Braxton McGee, Colton Hawk. Less than 10 seconds to go now. $250B class coming up next. Colin Keegan out there with us. Also Luke Rush. I got Regis Calfo, Matthew Donahue, Zach Perry, Drew Doran, Garrett Ward, Alexandra Diaz, Brandon Boyers, Andrew Thomas, and more ready to roll in less than 10 seconds. And the 777. Or that's what I see. Is that 711? I don't know. It don't matter because the 887 ends up grabbing the lead in this one. And wow. Look at that second turn, man. It is getting deep with water right now. A lot of standing water on the track, as Jen Kenyon pointed out a few moments ago, with a lot of the riders coming off the racetrack. 200B class coming up right now. Russell Smith, William Ruckle, Nick Fidenza, Zachary Hugel. Also Dawson Dunnick. We got Luke Ross and Braden Moore. Ten seconds. $119 off and roll. I think I might have had the wrong class there, folks. I'm going to do a double check here, make sure we're papers aren't sticking together here. All right, that was the 250B class. My papers stuck together, I believe. That was done. We see there. Now it should be 200B class. Now, apologize for that. Again, these wet and inclement conditions make for that. All today's technology, and we still can't keep it from raining on race day. It's all right. We're ready to roll no matter what. And 10 seconds for this 200B class. All right, now this makes more sense. 967, Braden Moore out of Ona, West Virginia on the inside. Looks like he might have the line up into that first turn. Oh, he gets on the brakes a little early. The Yamaha pilot, though, swings out wide, takes the lead now. The 346, William Ruckle from Morgantown, West Virginia on the Obermeyer Yamaha Reigns Riding University Offroadviking.com machine. Now we're to the Vet B class. Vet B class, Larry Hopper, Also, Daryl Schlabach, Jeremiah Spence, Jonathan White, Manuel Hernandez, Joe Maurice, and William Lackey all ready to roll next. That's your Bet B 30-plus class. 7 riders in this one. .356, Daryl Schlabach out of Powell, Ohio. I think he's going to take the early lead in that one. Up next, Open B, Ryan M. and Andrew McQuaid. Jeremy Randolph, Joe Saritsky Moore in 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to see if I can get caught up with Ricky now. He's up there pretty quick. 1:05. Whoa, look at that. Wow, that looks like fun, my friends. I missed the number. I was watching those guys skate through that mud in that second turn. That looked pretty cool. Senior B 40-plus coming up, if I'm not mistaken. Should be our last row taking off. 9 riders: Devin Ferguson, Scott Campbell, Michael Bryant, Shane Pinion, Mike Zabarick, John Kohler, Charles Wagner, Jade DeBerry, and Federico Webster. Rolling. Green flag is up. And a quick check of the start line. It looks like all bikes are off and rolling now through the first turn. Our final classes. 3:37, Michael Bryant from McKean, Pennsylvania, 44-year-old rider. Getting some traction out there, it looks like, and having a good time of doing so. So there you go, folks. The rain's starting to fall, or continues to fall. It looks like, according to radar, we could see some heavier rain showers in the area in the next few moments, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed that old Mr. Radar might be telling us a little bit of a fib. But regardless of what the weather has to offer, we have nothing but great GNCC racing lying straight ahead. Keep it tuned right here to GNCC Live on RacerTV.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Twins have notoriously been very hard on crankshafts because that big long stroke of those 2 cylinders just flexes the crankshaft around. So we were seeing bearing issues. Research development people at AMSOIL could show us that it was likely an oil problem. And they were correct. That was the issue. Instead of having to redesign the engine, I just had to do a better quality oil.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
You know, here at the Ampro Yamaha factory team, you know, we've been using the Evans products probably 5+ years, no issues. I mean, that's one thing we know we can count on for as cooling. And this year we had a radiator to get a hole knocked in. We lost probably 2/3 of our coolant in our Evans. In the bike, we still didn't have a bike failure. We feel like we have an advantage on our competitors, especially when races get really tough, technical, and the bikes overheat.
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's Rubber Submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com. The top racers choose the Sunstar Work Z stainless steel rear sprocket. Featuring an offset tooth designed for self-cleaning, it's up to 40% lighter and 3 times more durable than standard steel. Teamed with the Power Drive countershaft sprocket and Works Triple Guard Seal Ring chain, you've got unbeatable performance and durability. Sunstar drives Ryan Sykes, Thad Duvall, Adam McGill, Jared McClure, and many others. Watch for them on the podium all year long.
All right, welcome back to GNCC Live here on RacerTV.com. For those of you who are watching us at home, thank you so much for tuning in. You're lucky you're not here. It's a little bit wet and a little bit muddy, but for those of you that are here at the Maxxis General GNCC, we thank you for being here, and you guys are troopers for being out here in the mud and the rain here today. It's round 2 of the AMSOIL Grand National Cross Country Series presented by Maxxis. I'm joined here in the booth, Jen Kenyon with Johnny Gallagher, XC1 Pro ATV racer. Johnny, you raced yesterday. You guys didn't have these conditions, so things are a little different.
Yeah, definitely. What a turn we've seen here today. Yesterday we had beautiful weather, perfect track conditions. Couldn't have really asked for anything better. It's amazing how much things have changed in just 24 hours. Yesterday we had that red clay that was packed tight, and it was a grippy, tacky surface, and today it's just water sitting on top of more water out there right now. But these guys are tough, and we'll find out who picks good lines and that is able to get it done today.
Yeah, so what you guys are seeing here on the screen, those of you who are watching on RacerTV.com, this is a shot of the VP Racing Fuels Pro Row. You see a lot of riders coming through. They're all pretty muddy after that first lap. Now, keep in mind here today, because of the track conditions and the weather that we've had here this morning, they did cut this race down to a minimum of 2 hours. So, Johnny, that means they're not going to go under 2 hours, but they want to get as close as they can to 2 hours. So if they come in at 1:58, the leaders, they're going to have to go another lap. But if they come in at 2:01, they're done.
And I can assure you that these guys have all changed their strategy based upon that. You know, everybody's been watching the radar here for the last several days, knowing coming in. And for anybody at home that's been following the weather, it's kind of been pushing itself back further and further. And I think there was a glimmer of hope last night that maybe it was going to miss completely. And obviously, as we can see by the camera shot here, that just didn't happen. But these guys are prepared. They all knew going to the line that it was going to be a 2-hour race, so they've adjusted their fuel strategies accordingly. They've adjusted their bike prep accordingly. And most importantly, they've adjusted the way that they're mentally preparing themselves for this race, knowing that they need to be near the front at the beginning because things are going to happen quickly and they don't want to let the leaders get away.
Yeah, that last hour of a 3-hour race that the bikes usually run, that's an important hour. That's when the fatigue sets in for those that aren't in shape. That's when people, that's when things start happening in that last hour. So they're not going to have that last hour. They're going to have to really put the charge on, like you guys do in the ATV race. You have a 2-hour race, and it seems like compared to what the bikes do, there's a lot more strategy involved because you are missing that last hour.
And actually, mud races bring something different to the table in a lot of different ways. Obviously, the conditions lend themselves to someone who's thinking more. But as we noticed today, Jen, when you were interviewing the women's podium this morning earlier, we had women that are typically in the top 3 overall that were a little further back, had excellent rides, but it was the super seniors that took those podium positions today, the overall podium. And one thing that has, as maybe someone at home watching this who doesn't race GNCC, or even some of the casual observers here may not realize, a mud race like this takes a lot more strength than it does endurance. And here comes the leaders that are entering the grass track. Looks like Josh Strang with the lead, Paul Whibley in second, and we got a shot of some campers there. But you can see the water just standing out in these fields. And with those conditions, these guys are really kind of feeling out the track the first lap. You can see they're all together, but Josh he's taking a gamble by being out there because he's the first guy to slam into those ruts that are in some cases 2 to 3 feet deep, filled with water.
Yeah, it looks like he had a big boost of confidence, though. He grabbed that $250 All-Ball Racing Whole Shot Award. And last year we saw Paul Whibley, who's in second place right now in the Yamaha. We saw him grab a lot of hole shots, and we thought, man, Wibbs can really get a hole shot. But maybe it has something to do with the Yamaha machine because we do see Jordan Ashburn up there a lot as well. So Strang got out to that early lead right away with the hole shot. Whibley was tucked in right behind him. It sounds like we have Charlie Mullins in the third place position. and obviously everybody else is right there.
It's really hard to tell who's who out there. It's just varying shades of brown. But yes, you mentioned the whole shot, and obviously on a day like today, Josh is taking a chance by being up there, but he also has a great advantage of, you can see the spray coming off of these 450cc machines, and it's really a mist. And even with their goggles, even with all their protective gear, the guys that are in second on back are just getting soaked. Their goggles are getting trashed, and they're early in a race, they're already at a point where they're taking a toll on their equipment, where Josh out front, provided that he picks the right lines and doesn't get stuck, he's not even having to pull tear-offs. It's not currently raining, as we can't really tell from our camera shot, but we can tell you from the studio, it's maybe just a light drizzle, if anything. So the rain is let up, and with him being out front, he's not having to deal with near as much spray.
That's right, Johnny. We're here. Come back with that update, guys. We didn't quite get that. Could you come back with that update one more time?
In XC2, we have Meade in first, Hufford in second, Baylor in third.
All right, so we see Rory Meade's back out front again. He was our round 1 winner in the XC2 class. Rory's really, really good at these tough conditions, but like he said before, he's more a technical rider, not so much this grueling, muddy type rider. But it sounds like he can ride in pretty much anything at this point. Yeah,
and really we have 3 of our main players in XC2 up there, and that's kind of what we expected off the start here, to see Rory up front, and then obviously with Shane Hufford and Grant Baylor, last year's defending champion, right there with them. Those guys are getting themselves to the front to kind of avoid as much carnage as they can.
So we're just here on the opening lap, and it looks like we've got riders already having issues with their bikes. That guy's riding with a Moto Tees poncho. He's like, I'm not getting wet.
They're doing everything they can to get through, like we said, this first lap of racing. They're really going to kind of feel out the track conditions. They're going to feel out exactly where their machine's at. Also, they're dealing with not only the other riders, but today their main competition is this track. This Aonia Pass motocross facility here at the General GNCC is today turned into their biggest competitor beyond just the riders they've lined up against.
That's right. Now, Rodney Tomlin's joining us here in the booth. Rodney had the opportunity to see all these riders get underway on the start. Rodney, tell us about I know there's a lot of standing water out there. Those of you that are at home may not be able to see how wet it is in some spots. So, Rodney, tell us about just, that standing water and how that's going to play into today's race.
It's going to be good and bad at times. I think, and Johnny can probably sympathize with that. The good part of it is it might help knock down some of that heavy mud that's on the machines. The bad part, it might suck into the motors and cause us in an engine to seize. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way, I guess, Johnny.
Well, you really hit the nail on the head there. Right now, with the rain that's fallen and the standing water that there is, these guys aren't accumulating a lot of weight in this red Georgia clay that is heavy and it is sticky. So right now, as they're pummeling their way through these deep ruts, the mud is actually washing off of these machines. It is hard on goggles, and like you said, as they're charging through these ruts, that rear tire is throwing water up into the air box and the intake of the machine. So sure, they've done everything they can do with foam and duct tape and all of their other methods to keep water out of these engines. But as we saw in Florida, both on the ATV and the motorcycle side, when conditions get like this, we see typically more mechanical failures than what we see in a regular race. So that's coming into play here early already.
Well, if you're watching RacerTV.com and our GNCC live episode here, you can see that that is Strang still out front, and we still got Whibley back in the number 2 spot. A little bit of a change, I think, though, as we go a little further back. I think that we've got another Yamaha rider. It might be Jordan Ashburn. I'm not real sure, that is snuck in front of Caleb Russell, who I think is dropped off to the number 5 spot. That was Mullins running in the number 3 spot aboard the 112. So saw Strang, Whibley, Mullins. They should be coming close to the finish here within the next mile or so. So we get a glimpse of them here in this field, and then we'll get another glimpse of them coming up toward the finish line itself here shortly.
Yeah, Rodney, for the viewers at home, what we're seeing here is roughly on the original marked course, there have obviously been some changes due to the weather and due to some bottlenecks in our AM race here. We're looking at roughly what was originally the 9-mile marker on an 11-mile course. So we've got about 1.75 miles to 2 miles from where you're seeing them right now until they'll be working their way through the finish line chicane.
So looking at these conditions, Johnny, looking at the amount of rain and stuff that fell and how steadily it fell today, honestly, this facility is holding up nicely. This facility is traditionally known for its deep ruts and things like that, and we know that wintertime, coming out of the winter, that the ground is soft. But amazingly, this ground, though it was soft, was a lot harder than in years past. So this rain is not as detrimental or as bad as it could have been in past years, I think.
And actually, I think looking at the conditions yesterday to today, a lot of the standing water seeing is a result of the ATV race yesterday, the UTV race after that. What you've got, like we talked about earlier, is this red clay pan here in Georgia that's, hard as a rock. And then there's ruts from the ATV race and also the UTV race. Those fill up with water, and that's what we're seeing here. But yes, in the past, I haven't spent any time up here in Georgia over the winter, but I know down in Florida we saw the result of huge amounts of rainfall over the entire winter that we hadn't seen in years previous. It almost appears to be the exact opposite of that here today. Seems as though it's been dry leading into the weekend. The ground was dry, it was hard, and now that we've gotten these kind of flash floods, if you will, I mean, from what they said, 2 inches of rain since this morning.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if we've had that much, but I know they're forecasting at least that much. And a couple people have said, this is worse than the Mammoth. I said, I don't know about that.
We interviewed some of our morning podium finishers, and one of the women pointed out every mud race throws its own little twist, if you will. There are no two that are the same. The conditions here are far different from the Mammoth. The Mammoth's different from Snowshoe, which isn't always a mud race, but has been at times in the past. Obviously, we know the John Penton lends itself to, if the rain falls right, it can be a mud race. And then, hey, we had the Mud Mucker last weekend that really lived up to its name. So that was yet another type of mud race. So we're going to see this play out today, and actually we see Paul Whibley checking in now in the lead.
Wow. Wibbs, the Axeman, man, he is full of strength, no doubt about it. This time last year he was struggling and wouldn't let anybody know what was going on. As we wrap up our first lap, 26 minutes, actually just under 26 minutes, 25 minutes, 59 seconds, 0.67 for Paul Whibley. Josh Strang checking in another 6 seconds back in the number 2 spot, a little bit of a gap opening. That was Jordy Ashburn, as we've got three of those Infab and Pro Yamahas running in podium spots in the early part of this race. Caleb Russell, your defending GNCC champion, is running in the number 4 spot. Chris Bach has moved up to 5th now.
Actually, it appears that Charlie Mullen's transponder may not be working, because that's definitely Charlie there in 3rd, and he was 2nd just a moment ago when they actually checked in. So that is him there reaching. You can see him pulling a tear off. That's Ashburn behind him, removing his goggles. So that's kind of interesting to see. Ashburn actually just came through the finish line chicane. Obviously had the opportunity. I'm sure he had some pit crew members there. Chose not to get goggles, but just 2 turns later removed his. So interesting move there on his part. But honestly, in these conditions, he may be figuring, hey, these goggles aren't going to last long anyway. Let's just start the day off right, pitch these goggles, and wing it.
I'll tell you, sometimes that can play in your favor, and then other times all it takes is having your eyes open a fraction of a second too long when someone spins a big clot of mud in your face and your eyes. I mean, it could change. I mean, it could be going great all at once, man, and then it turn around for you. You've seen it happen. You've actually had your cornea scratched from the mud, if memory serves me correct.
Yeah, twice in recent years. Actually, last year at the Mammoth, was running 2nd on the last lap and scratched both corneas. And at that point, for somebody who's never done it, your eyes actually force themselves shut. You no longer have any control. You can't open them, and you're done. So obviously, these guys are going to want to avoid that.
Yes, no, most definitely. We're now almost 28 minutes into this one. Whibley, Mullen, Strang, Mead is now checking in the number 4 spot overall. That's after time adjustments. Remember, Mead from the XC2 Pro Lights class took the win in Florida, a week ago, and is looking like he may be searching for another one, man. I tell you, this is a good move. I was talking with Rory yesterday, as a matter of fact. He was kind of like, I asked him, I said, so the move we talked about, he goes, wasn't necessarily the move that I probably would have chosen for myself, but I think it might have been a good move, and I think it might have been a good move also because it gives him a chance to reestablish himself and reacquaint himself with that confidence that he seemed to be lacking last year. All right, we're going to go take a look at some footage from earlier on lap number 1 while the number 4.
And look at how clean he was up front there.
Yeah. That's out near the FMF Power Point, the Mulch Pile, as we call it. And all the riders actually pretty clean at this particular juncture.
And that doesn't look so bad right now, and anybody that watched yesterday's coverage or actually was out there walking, this is just going to continue to get rougher and rougher as the day goes on. We've seen similar conditions at the John Penton in Ohio and other places where we've run through the piled up mulch like that, and it really does, it's phenomenal how rough that will get throughout the course of the day.
Watching these riders again, this is earlier on lap 1. There's your leaders, it looks like.
That's Rory Mead there.
Yeah, in the XC2 Pro Lights class. There's Duvall right behind him physically on the racetrack. We saw him. There's the 11. That would be second place. That's Shane Hufford. Hufford out of Honeybrook, Pennsylvania. He's running 7th overall in the overall standing, second the XC2 Pro Lights class right now.
And Rodney, as Jen pointed out just a few moments ago with Rory, he excels in inclement conditions. And in the past, we've seen it at races like the Mammoth in 2012, where it wasn't muddy. He also has won a number of different races over the years that were really technical conditions. And while this is a mud race, the aspect of the technicality, if you will, that's going to come in today is line choice. And that's where he's really proven himself a standout rider. He's smart, he's smooth, his riding style is very controlled, and I think at times, he kind of has that sit back, wait and see approach, and that may pay off very well for him here today.
Wow, just about lost the monitor.
and that's Josh Strang there kicking his bike, and he's not able to get it restarted entering into the pro pits here on lap 2. Caleb Russell in for a goggle change. Strang is now out of our shop, but he was really struggling to get that machine refired. It looks like as they come in and they're grabbing goggles, some of the guys are taking a splash of fuel here. And is that Josh? Nope, that's Jordan Ashburn checking in. We just see Chris Bach coming through our screen. So we're not exactly sure the running order because these guys have definitely mixed it up. Now this is about the 3.5 mile marker. So since we've seen them check in here at the finish line, they've traversed another 3.5 miles of this tough facility through the ruts in the water, and now they're checking in here, and we pan back, and obviously Josh got that machine refired and back going because that's where he was sitting just a moment ago.
One has to wonder. We see Ryan Sipes' vehicle right there, and that's him parking ahead of the auxiliary pro pits. You got to wonder how these conditions are treating him coming from the motocross side of things.
Well, obviously they race outdoors as well. They have the rain to deal with. They have the mud. But when they do so, they do it for 30 minutes. These guys are now going to be out there for 2 hours. So each lap that he completes is going to be like one complete moto for him, what he's used to. He's obviously got the talent. I'm sure he's, talked to the guys and picked up all the secrets he can. And, he's been around a while. So I'm sure he had his machine and all his equipment prepared as best he can. But he's going to learn a lot about line choice today, or, who knows? Maybe he'll teach these guys something about line choice.
Well, taking a look at our XC1 Pro Class standings after one lap of racing complete. We're due in for lap 2 complete in about 19 minutes. When we checked in, Paul Whibley had the lead with Mullins running second. Josh Strang had fallen to the number 3 spot with Jordy Ashburn in 4th. In 5th was Caleb Russell, 6th, the number 3 Chris Bach. Stu Baylor running solidly today in 7th. Jason Thomas in 9th, in 8th aboard the number 9. 9th then was the 222 of Nick Davis, and Bad Thad Duvall rounded out your top 10 in the XC1 Pro Class. XC2 Pro Lights currently running a top 5 overall and leading the XC2 Pro Lights. The 13 Roy Mead from New Zealand. We've got Shane Hufford out there, the number 11 from Honeybrook, Pennsylvania, in second. Grant Baylor, the defending champion of this class, Johnny, running in the number 3 spot. He's the FMF KTM rider from Belton, South Carolina. Jesse Grome, who's riding there for Dirtwise Academy, and Shane Watts out of Fork River, New Jersey. The 229 is 4th. Trevor Bollinger, who hit the scene with a big splash last year at round 3 in Morganton, North Carolina, won the top overall amateur and decided he was going to start racing all the GNCCs last year. Well, they did that, and he come out a national ranked number 18, top 20 and he was only in an A class last year. I think 4-stroke, if memory serves me correct. Just an amazing talent, to say the least, and he's riding strong here. 5th place, XC2 Pro Lights. Lane Michael is 6th, Trevor Barrett in 7th. Ricky Russell, rough and rowdy, now on the NFAB and Pro Yamaha on the Pro Lights team, is running in 8th spot. Kalen May, the 918, is 9th, and Zach Osborne, who has already podiumed twice in Supercross this year, is hoping for the possibility of getting another podium here in GNCC like he did last year. He podiumed in Supercross last year, he podiumed in GNCC, and he podiumed in motocross, which was a pretty cool thing, I think. And he's going for it again here this year, it looks like.
You know, and what an incredibly versatile rider Zach Osborne has proven himself to be last season. You know, coming out, kind of the story goes that he basically went kind of on a bet with Stu Baylor. It was kind of a dare. Let's go race at GNCC. Loaded his bike up the night before, drove here, and then once he had done well, or actually that was in Florida, and then did it again here a year ago. So, you know, backed that podium up with the 2 podiums to start the season last year, and then came out at Unadilla and did it again. And like you said, podium in the Outdoor Nationals, podium in the Supercrosses. He's obviously figured it all out and can transfer his skills anywhere he goes.
Right now, we're watching some recorded action from out near, I think that's out, near the 6 or 7 mile marker, maybe a little further, a little closer, but regardless, that is a rather challenging area of the racetrack. You go and you have a couple of uphill little jumps, and I think that the challenge comes today just simply because as hard packed as it is in there, you got to keep some good momentum or you're going to fall fast.
You know, where they're at right there is just down below the back side of the pro pits. I know where it's at from having raced yesterday. I recognize it now. At first I was kind of lost, but this is actually the first shot I've seen of Deep in the Woods today, and they're in a lot better shape than what I expected.
I was talking with, Joel, who is one of our track crew. He told me that he raced the 60-plus class this morning. He said, the worst part of the track is the last half mile leading up to the finish line. He says the woods and everything aren't really that bad. Now, when you get down the lower lying areas, you got some holes that are starting to waller out and so forth, and bikes are starting to get sucked. But all in all, I think really we do have a fairly good track. And right now, the rain is starting to lighten up just a little bit. And Johnny, as we check into this, we are now about 36 minutes, a little more than 36 minutes into this race, and we still got plenty to go. And we're going to keep you up to date with as much of this as possible and a whole lot more when we return on GNCC Live at RacerTV.com.
Twins have notoriously been very hard on crankshafts because that big long stroke of those 2 cylinders just flexes the crankshaft around. So we were seeing bearing issues. Research development people at AMSOIL could show us that it was likely an oil problem. And they were correct. That was the issue. Instead of having to redesign the engine, I just had to do a better quality oil.
Sometimes you come across something so different, you just have to stop and check it out. The Rocky Mountain ATV MC website has everything you need, from our huge selection of apparel and gear to dirt bike accessories and OEM parts. Our extensive inventory means most orders arrive in 3 days or less. Get low prices, quick shipping, and incredible customer service. RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready.
Find your flow with Maxxis Tires.
The top racers choose the Sunstar Work Z stainless steel rear sprocket. Featuring an offset tooth designed for self-cleaning, it's up to 40% lighter and 3 times more durable than standard steel. Teamed with the Power Drive countershaft sprocket and Works triple guard sealed ring chain, you've got unbeatable performance and durability. Sunstar drives Ryan Sykes, Thad Duvall, Adam McGill, Jared McClure, and many others. Watch for them on the podium all year long.
And welcome back to GNCC Live at RacerTV.com for this second round of America's Premier Off-Road Racing Championship, the AMSOIL Grand National Cross Country Series presented by Maxxis, an AMA National Championship. Rodney Tomlin and now Mr. Mike Allen, right? That's right. Mike Allen from Alco Cleaners, who is a brand new sponsor here in the 2014 season. And from what I understand, also not only a brand new sponsor, but basically a brand new product out on the line right now. There you go.
It is. We've been associated with the GNCC for many years, racing the series, but the product was just launched about 8 months ago, so it is a brand new product.
Man, and I mean, I wouldn't call it necessarily a unique product, because if you go to a grocery or you go to a department store, you're going to find loads and loads and loads of cleaner. I mean, some will be mud release, some will be this, some will be that. But the one thing that your guys' cleaner is, I mean, there's there's several different things that makes it rather unique. Number one, it's biodegradable. It's all green. Number two, I think this is the biggest part of it. You guys really, really super believe in this product, so much so that you're willing to give a 100% guarantee, man. If you don't like it, you take the stuff back. They'll give you all your money back, man. I mean, that's really believing in your product, if you ask me.
That's right. And, the good thing is we've never had to do that.
Is that right? I wondered about that. I wondered if anyone had said anything about it, saying, no, I didn't quite do what I was expecting it to do.
Well, we live in North Carolina. The product was developed in North Carolina, and we've got a lot of red clay, which just stains everything. Yeah, so right. That was pretty good proving grounds for the product.
I think so. I can remember some of the North Carolina rounds we used to do, Yadkin Valley Stomp in particular, right. Man, some of the reddest mud I've ever seen. I think there's still stuff stained in the semi from the red mud of Yadkin Valley, but that's pretty neat. So, I mean, tell me a little bit more about the product. I know you got the motorcycle, the dirt bike mud release and stuff, but let's talk a little bit about it. What makes it so much more special than all the others out there?
Well, as you mentioned, it is a green product. It's environmentally friendly, but it's all natural. It's a non-corrosive cleaner, unlike some of your real powerful cleaners. And we have a dirt bike and ATV wash. We have some street bike products, quick detailers, and also a street bike wash. And then we have some products that are designed for like the farm market for equipment and that kind of thing.
And that'd probably be something to be perfect for maybe like the motorhome or something to get those bugs and the road and grime, the grime off the road and everything on. I mean, so basically, I mean, this stuff is anything you need to clean, you can clean it with it, right?
Pretty much. I mean, we've got a real quick, unique story. One of the pro quad riders threw his pants and gear away yesterday, or in Florida, actually. Said, it's trashed. I'll never get these black stains out of it. So when he walked off, we went and got it out of the trash. And we've been showing it all weekend to folks. It looks brand new.
Is that right?
So it's real good to clean the gear as well. You can pre-treat your gear with it before you throw it in the washer, and it'll take the stains out.
Man, that's believing in the product. Well, Mike, I tell you, man, I'm really glad to have you guys as a part of the GNCC, man. I mean, as a sponsor, and more importantly, I think it shows not only the belief in your product, but the belief in this GNCC nation, man, and what these people go through. You want to help them out. I know it's kind of like the beginning stages for you and everything, but this is a perfect place to launch this, I think, especially days like today.
I agree. We're really excited to be a part of the series this year.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot for being a part of it. That's Mike Allen from over at Alco Cleaners. And what's your guys' slogan now? What's the tagline you guys are using?
It's extreme clean, extreme green.
Extreme clean, extreme green. That's Alco Cleaners. Check them out. You can find them on the World Wide Web for those of you watching at home at alcocleaners.com. As we check back in with the racing action here at hand right now, folks, we are about 43 minutes into what should be a little more than a 2-hour race today. Pre-recorded stuff we're watching right now from earlier in the race. Last report still have Paul Webley still out front aboard the number 5. Mullins in second, Strang in third, Meade in fourth. That's overall, but that being Ashburn is fourth physically and Russell fifth physically. We'll see what the lap 2 has to hold. And, wondering about a lot of these riders heading into this race, you might ask the question, how how much of a problem is this stuff going to cause, especially for riders like Charlie Mullins and for Caleb Russell? I know in talking with Caleb and the problems that he suffered down in Florida, I asked him, I said, wow, man, I said, I know you're not too much of a mud rider. What are you thinking about today? And the reason I'd ask that is simply because Caleb was walking around. He looked like the weight of the world was off his shoulders. He looked happy. He had a bounce in his step. And I thought, wow, man, that's kind of strange knowing how badly that Caleb Russell hates the mud and hates to know that he is so far behind in the championship. Here's what he told me, Johnny Gallagher. He said, I wanted to keep raining. He says, I'm hoping these other guys will break down so I can gain some points back on them in that championship. So I thought, wow, what a great strategy and what a great hope. Now, whether or not that's going to be the case because of the conditions being a little differently than the heavy mud that we talked about, that question remains to be answered. But, he may not be talking about breaking down either. He may be talking about mistakes. Maybe he feels that confident in his riding abilities in the wet.
My dad used to have a saying years ago. He used to say mud was the great equalizer. It throws an entirely different wrench into everybody's plans. It makes conditions that you can't prepare for. It's completely different than anything that we ride during normal dry conditions, obviously. So, and we see Zach Osborne popping past our camera there.
Johnny, we got an update coming in. Go ahead, update.
We just opened up a 3-second lead over Charlie Mullins and Caleb Russell. Mullins close behind. They're heading to the 9.
All right, I hate to do this to you, but one more time, I got you up to the mic a little late.
We came 0.8 mile mark with a 3-second lead over Charlie Mullins. Caleb Russell is just behind, and they're heading to you.
10-4, thanks a lot. Wow, sounds like things are starting to get exciting up there. Russell now up to that number 3 position, which is a methodical effort, I think, for him. He didn't seem to be trying to run and gun to the front of the pack too soon. He's just taking his time, picking his way up through the pack right now, it looks like, Johnny.
Yeah, obviously these guys aren't going to exert too much effort early. They're also not going to want to tear up their equipment, and we should be seeing them pop out into the field section here. You said they were coming to the 9, and like we discussed before, the field's coming on the backside of the finish line. That's roughly the 9-mile marker. But, those 3 guys, all 3 were a major play in this race in Florida just a week ago, and all 3 of them are up front. And I'm sure that the rest of the pack isn't far behind, but so far these guys are the ones that have done the best job of picking the right lines, putting themselves in the right position. And, Caleb we saw was way in the back off the start, just like he was in Florida. He's worked his way up to 3rd now. Charlie was up there right from the beginning, and obviously Whibley was in 2nd right from the drop of the gate. So, Caleb's the one that's put the work in early and taking the chances to get up there, and we'll have to see how much energy is expended and how much of his machine and his equipment he's used up to get there. And they should be checking in here soon for lap 2.
Now about a little more than 47 minutes into this race, and as we look out the broadcast studios, Johnny, we're seeing that rain that had lightened up and virtually stopped just a few moments ago is starting to fall again. It's not hard. But it is starting to come down a little bit. And Jen Kenyon is standing by over on Pro Row. What's happening over there, Jen?
Well, Rodney, I don't know exactly what's wrong, but Andrew DeLong has pushed his bike into the pro pits. He's now he put the bike on the stand, took his helmet off. It looks like his mechanic, Joey, is looking at the bike, but they're not in a big rush, which tells me it might be something that is not going to allow him to go back out there. But I'm going to get some information for you guys in the meantime.
All right, thanks a lot. That's a tough break for DeLong. I know that he was really running and gunning and hoping to be able to finish all these races this year because, he had, the last couple of years he's been plagued with not being able to do so because of injuries or maybe having to sit out a race or two. But I know that he would like to have every race under his belt this year just to see where he could finish whenever it was all said and done.
Yeah, I spent a lot of this winter with Andrew, and obviously it was a big change for him with the factory Husqvarna program. Last year he was on the Husky, but it was the old Husky through Fred Andrews Racing. And actually, just as Jen was doing that update, I got a text from yesterday's third-place finisher, Chris Borch, who a lot of us spent time with in the winter, and it was just a where's DeLong with a question mark. So obviously, Chris at home, if you're listening, there's your answer.
Wow. So Chris Borch is watching the motorcycles, huh?
Yeah, he likes to critique my announcing skills, so all the boys at home are watching if they're not here today. Obviously, yesterday's winner, Walker Fowler's out there trouncing around, helping the M-Pro guys get through the mud, and a few of the other ATV guys are still here. But there's, the rest of them are at home watching. We're big fans even when we're not here.
So we got 49 minutes now into this race, and I don't know how. We talked about the great equalizer. I'm going to look at this, and this isn't too far out of the realm of possibility, I don't think, all things considered. But we've got two non-XC1 Pro riders right now that have checked in with time adjustments in the number 1 and 2 spots. Now, the first guy, a 14-minute and 59-second lap time, I think that maybe he might have taken the wrong turn out there someplace and maybe, got things a little short. Obviously, it's easy to do on days like today, especially if you're trying to go around the bottleneck. You might see a section of track, and you think, oh, okay, there it is, and you jump on it, and you've already ran that section. You're coming right back to where you started, I guess.
Yeah, things get crazy out there in a mud race like this, and there's constant reroutes going on. Part of GNCC racing is bottlenecks, but Jeff Russell, Barry Hawk, the entire track crew, they do a great job of realizing when a bottleneck has become impassable and it's actually impeding the racing versus when it's just a tough obstacle, if you will, for these guys to overcome. And, Jeff and Barry, what's awesome about GNCC and the track crew, these guys are both former champions, excellent pro-level riders, probably still to this day if they hop on a bike. So they can make those seat-of-the-pants, split-second decisions as to what needs to be done with the track to keep the racing fair and clean and, provide these guys with the best possible track for them to go out and showcase their skills. And as we look to the 9-mile marker in the fields here, it appears that Charlie Mullins is in the lead. That looks to be Caleb in second and maybe Jordan Ashburn in third, actually. And Chris Bach is there as well. And now we've got Wibley coming in. He's actually fallen back a little ways. It appears he's back in about 6th. And then we've got Josh Strang just behind Wibley. Oh, and Rory Mead. That's actually Rory Mead just behind Josh Strang. So we'll have to see what happens here with the time, but judging by what I just looked at, I think we're going to have an overall leader from the XC2 class when they check in here just in a minute.
Wow.
Sorry to spoil a surprise, but Eagle Eye, all these years I can recognize these guys' riding style from across the fields.
Here's the amazing thing. What if it finally happens? What if an XC2 Pro Lights guy actually wins a bike race? We've seen it happen on the ATV side of things, but this might be the historical first, I think, in motorcycles, if I'm not mistaken, right? I mean, we had them come close, but nobody ever actually won the overall, if I recall right.
Correct. You are correct. We can do the trivia thing anytime you want, but you got that one right.
Good. I was thinking
we've had Stu Baylor. There's been Caleb Russell. Thad Duvall came very, very close at Snowshoe in 2008.
4 seconds.
Actually had David Knight was thought to be unbeatable at Snowshoe. Thad had him covered. Thad had it done. One last mud hole. All he had to do was get through there, and he had her won. It was all sealed up, and he stuck it in the mud hole and ended up second.
Wow, that had to be a heartbreaker for him. But, it also made for some excitement and hype in the years to come, and it also, I think, helped make Thad Duvall a much better rider in the end. I'm looking right now on the scores. We got 52.09 as far as how long we've been in. I see a Joshua Catch out of West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, 250B rider, number 537, had a 25-minute, 17-second lap time. That's almost 40 seconds faster than Wibley, Mullins, Strang, and those guys' first lap. Not saying it's not possible. They're leaving it in there right now. They're going to watch this guy's laps, and if he stays consistent, then, might be the case. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess, as much as anything.
Yeah,
look how deep that hole is.
Oh,
right before the finish line, those guys are going almost over their wheel, it looks like.
If you could see just below that tree line, actually, between the shot we see coming the other direction as they pan there, where you see them come across the bottom. Yesterday during the ATV race and this morning's amateur race, they actually went up and down between those pine trees. And Rodney, I was flabbergasted by how deep the water was. Right, that big pine tree, see that little water? They're zooming in on it. That guy's running by. That water's about 4 feet deep. And that was part of the track for the morning race. They actually had to remove it on the last lap because it was no longer passable. Nobody could make it through. They were having to run through the banners and around the edge. But that just shows the amount of rainfall that we've had here in a short period of time.
Short period of time. It didn't start falling till about 6 o'clock this morning. As we check in right now, we're due in about 5 minutes for our leaders, I think. I just had Well, Scott Campbell just checked in with a 19-minute lap time. I think at least he's riding consistently the same track, you know.
yeah, he's, you know, and I'm certain it's an honest mistake. I mean, it's chaos out there. Things are going crazy, and, you know, these guys checking in with now we've got another rider popping in with Jay
He must have
Devari.
followed that guy.
Yeah, popping in with, let's see, a 1937, so just off the pace of Scott Campbell there. But I'm sure timing and scoring will get that sorted out.
Oh, yeah.
And more likely than not, we'll see those guys, those top three there kind of move out, which will leave, you know, as we're showing it on our screen, we have Paul Whibley, Charlie Mullins, and Josh Strang, our top three. We know from seeing the field at the 9-mile marker that is no longer the case. When we last saw him, it was Charlie Mullins, Caleb Russell, and it appeared, and here they're coming in now. And we've got Charlie in the lead, Caleb in second, and that is Jordan Ashburn with the big extended visor in third, Chris Bach in fourth, and I'll tell you who 5 is here in just a minute. Oh, that's Paul Whibley now up to 5th, right on Chris Bach's rear wheel. Oh, actually, he makes the pass on Bach. Now we've got, they're checking in, so you guys will all see this here. Josh Strang with that group as well.
So once again, it's Mullins, Russell, Ashburn, Whibley. Bach checks in 5th, Josh Strang.
And look who we got coming through the finish. That's Grant Baylor.
What?
So Grant Baylor is now going to be your overall leader in about that long.
Yep, and adjusted time. You want to know how much it is? Try 35 seconds or so, 34 and a half seconds between the two on adjusted time. Man, Baylor must have really found a rail out there someplace to be able to capitalize on that much time. Rory Mead checks in second overall. He's only 2 seconds behind Grant Baylor right now, so that puts Mullins into the number 3 spot overall whenever we do time adjustments. Russell now drops to 4. Jordy Ashburn is the number 5 ride. Now, while they get that all sorted out here on lap 2, I'm going to head on over to the other classes, and we're going to take a rundown of all of our open A's, B's, and all that kind of stuff here in just a second. But actually, I think we should probably take a quick break. We've got lap number 2 in the history books. Riders are heading into lap number 3, a little over, well, almost 56 minutes now into this Maxxis General GNCC, and we'll be back with more GNCC Live on RacerTV.com right after this.
Motocross, for me, bike. I mean, it's something that you really have to experience to understand.
Find your flow with Maxxis tires.
You know, here at the Ampro Yamaha factory team, you know, we've been using the Evans products probably 5+ years, no issues. I mean, that's one thing we know we can count on for as cooling. I mean, this year we had a radiator to get a hole knocked in. We lost probably 2/3 of our coolant, our Evans, and the bike, we still didn't have a bike failure. We feel like we have an advantage on our competitors, especially when races get really tough, technical, and the bikes overheat.
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's rubber submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com. The top racers choose the Sunstar Work Z stainless steel rear sprocket. Featuring an offset tooth design for self-cleaning, it's up to 40% lighter and 3 times more durable than standard steel. Teamed with the Power Drive countershaft sprocket and Works Triple Guard Seal Grade chain, you've got unbeatable performance and durability. Sunstar drives Ryan Sykes, Thad Duvall, Adam McGill, Jared McClure, and many others. Watch for them on the podium all year long.
And welcome to GNCC Live here on RacerTV.com. Rodney Tomlin, Johnny Gallagher, along with Jen Kenyon, and nearly an hour of racing complete. We have 59 minutes and 7 seconds into this one, and going down to the pits right now, and looks like we've got the pro riders going through. We've got gas stops going on, Johnny. Look how busy they are. Goggles, gloves, everything's going on right now.
Yeah, we see a lot of hustling and bustling going on in there, and one thing that I did catch is that was Rory Mead that came through. It looks like he physically actually made the pass on Paul Whibley. It doesn't look like he stopped, but nonetheless, one thing I want to point out right now is Rory Mead and Grant Baylor are physically, as we said, within 25 seconds of the leaders, which means they can see him. Obviously, a lot of things are going to play out today, but, you know, from experience, you mentioned that we've had some XC2 wins from the ATV side of things, where the XC2 winner has actually won the overall. One of the things that Walker Fowler, who's done that, and Brian Wolf, who's done that in the past, have said after the fact is it was a huge confidence boost and a big weight off their shoulders when they could physically see the leader. And they knew they didn't have to pass him. They didn't even have to hang right with them. They just need to stay within 1 minute. 60 seconds is the time that Rory Mead, Grant Baylor, these guys have to play with to potentially make history here today.
A little over 1 hour into this one now, so we take a look at our class-by-class breakdown. Grant Baylor is your overall leader, or actually, yeah, Baylor is your overall leader. Roy Mead in second, Charlie Mullins in third, Caleb Russell in fourth, and Jordan Ashburn rounds out your top 5 as far as the overall is concerned. We got 6, Paul Whibley, Chris Bach in 7th, Josh Strang is 8, Jesse Grome, XC2 Pro Lights, 3rd place is 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Stu Baylor there on the 814 machine. In the Open A class, we got Cliff Ousley out front in this one aboard the 424, minute and 51-second lead over the 318 of Jared Jordan. 3rd place Open A class, number 30 Bob Dunlap, with 4th place being the 377 of Dual Murphy. In the number 5 spot, the 897 Brandon Higgins. 6th place, 430 Dallas Micah. 7th spot, 905 Andrew Boggs. 8th place Hunter Williams aboard the 396. In 9th spot, the 78 Timothy Murphy, and rounding out the top 10, Wes Keller, the 254. In the 250A class, Austin Lee, the 123, moving up into that 250A class, is about 17 seconds ahead, or was at the end of that first lap, over the 373 of Caleb Hayes. 3rd was the 311 of Matthew Nix. 4th, 553 Gary Myers. In 5th, 282 Mike Witkowski. 6th will be Caleb Ward aboard the 389. 7th, Mason Pratt. 8th spot, Mason Atherton aboard the 427. 9th place, Dylan Stout aboard the 74. And 10th place, Alex B. Roth on the 456 machine. 200A class, Taylor Johnson, 407 from Landrum, South Carolina. A 41-second gap between first and second. 981, Jonathan Johnson out of Landrum, South Carolina is second. 3rd place, 384, Michael Pillar out of Dover, Ohio. 4th place, the 56 of Logan Papool out of Cadiz, Kentucky. 5th place, the 339 Clint Masters from Morgantown, West Virginia. 6th place, 511 is Mark Zuzman. 7th place, James Skinner aboard the 802. 8th place, Mark Hugel, or John Hugel Jr. in 8th. 141 is Christopher Venditti. And then we've got 10th place, 79, Zachary Ferentz in that 200A class. I believe we just got the official word. 5-lap race that they're going to be looking at. That's the plans right now. If something changes, we got to be right in that 2-hour mark, and I would imagine that they probably buffered that 2 hours very easily. All right, Jen Kenyon standing by down in the pits. A pretty busy place there just a few moments ago, Jen.
Yeah, Rodney, for sure it's a busy place here in the VP Racing Fuels Pro Row. But the busiest place, I think, right now was the NFAB Ampro Yamaha pits. I'm down here with Josh Strang's mechanic, Eddie Ray. You guys just had 3 riders come in, same time. They all pitted. They're all running up front. Talk about the craziness that's happening under here.
Yeah, you know, with such a big track, what's the chances of all those three guys coming in at the same time? But, you know, it's a good thing. They're all running up front. You know, they're all maybe keying off each other, and hopefully at the end we're 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, now when you were surprised when Josh, your rider, came through because you said you didn't even recognize them. Those guys are covered, so it takes a little extra, you know, looking out on your guys' part to try and find out and make sure you know where those guys are, huh?
Yeah, when they came flying in, like, I couldn't even tell it was Josh. Like, I didn't know if it was Jordan. I didn't know if it was just some random guy stopping in our pits. His face was just solid black, and I was like, at the last second, I realized it was him. So threw him a rag, threw him some goggles, put some gas in, and pushed him back out on the track.
All right, now we just figured out it's going to be a 5-lap race here, and it looks like you guys are pretty happy. Does that mean you're not going to have to fuel these guys again?
No, we get good gas mileage. Our tank is IMS provided us with a good tank that goes a long way. So we fueled them this time, and they'll go to the end. The only reason they'll stop is for goggles if they need them.
All right, they probably will, knowing what the track conditions are like, but good luck to you guys here today.
All right, thanks.
Rodney.
All right, thanks a lot, Jen Kenyon. If you're watching at home, GNCC Live on RacerTV.com, we've got some footage. This is actually live. I'm sorry, this is live footage right here. So this is live stuff going on. And, Johnny, there's that section of track, I think, down below the pro pits that we were talking about there moments ago, and how, how much of a challenge it become for that rider all of a sudden.
You know, and Rodney, in comparing and contrasting conditions from yesterday, we see that turnout around the tree there come up, and where he's going up right now, we were actually doubling that yesterday. It was two kind of natural terrain doubles. We double up out of the corner and then double all the way to the top. Now we've got ruts that are apparently, you know, somewhere between 18 inches and 2 feet deep, and, you know, these guys are just trudging their way through the slop.
580. I'll see if I can't find out who that guy is, man, because he is purely whooped and just went down again, man.
He's got the spirit of GNCC, though. He's not giving up. He's going to kickstart that bike.
Christopher Williams, 250B class. Christopher Williams is who that is. And, man, what a tough break for Chris Williams there as he is.
And
he's finally.
Maybe just not quite off he goes yet.
I thought he had it going there.
The struggle is real out there today, Rodney, but
Jen Kenyon got a report coming from down in the pits. Jen, sounds like you're Johnny on the spot right there.
I just got a report that Rory Mead was out front physically. What they were saying that they think he's actually in front of Grant Baylor. Now, I don't know. I haven't looked at live timing and scoring. I'm not sure if maybe Rory's transponder isn't reading or if something got really shooken up out there, but it sounds like he's on the gas.
Well, he was running second place there right behind, only about 3 seconds behind Baylor when they checked in at the finish line. Remember, we had that pit stop, so there might have been a change there.
What we saw there, and that was, when they came through there, we saw Paul Woodley, and the bike that we saw shoot through to the left side of the screen was Rory Mead. I recognized the handguards. Grant Baylor stopped for fuel and goggles. I don't know where Rory's pitted. I believe he may be in the auxiliary XC2 Pro pits, so we wouldn't have seen him if he did stop, but we did see him shoot through that shot, which means he was out roughly 5 to 7 seconds ahead of Grant. So physically in the lead and on corrected time in the overall lead.
Wow, taking a look at four-stroke A lights class right now. These guys, well, they're probably right about on par. The second lap a little longer than the first lap. Says about 2.5 minutes late at this moment. We got Josh Lee out front in that one, or had anyway. Brady Myers in second. Alex Teagarden in second. Tristan Landon was running third. Luke Parsons in fourth. Or actually, fourth was Tristan Landon, then Luke Parsons. So let's do this again. Josh Lee 1. Brady Myers 2. Alex Teagarden 3. Tristan Lander in 4, Luke Parsons in 5th, Levi Keller in 6th, Jake Froman in 7th, Ethan Jonas in 8th, Dalton Cross in 9th, and Van McCarran rounding out your top 10 four-stroke A. Vet A, 30-plus, Joe Marsh leading Matt Boston. Boston out front of Sean Remington now. In the number 3 spot, David Galliano is 4th, Brian Hollingshead in 5th, TJ Ernie in 6th, James Steiner Sr., Big Jim Steiner in 7th, and Rudy Austin all the way from England in 8th. And there's our leaders going through that section now, it looks like, Johnny.
Yeah, we can definitely see these guys are making what appears to be such a difficult section, and is a difficult section. They're making it look easy.
Amazing. Some make it look easy. Others, you can tell the struggle. But regardless, leaders are continuing to roll on. Senior A 40-plus class is what we'll take a look at next. This is after one lap complete. We're now an hour and 8 minutes into this race. Josh Scott leading the Senior A class with John Leonard running second. Francis Carousel
We just saw that was Josh Strang that just came through our shot here at the 7-mile marker. It appears he's dropped off just a bit, but plenty of time for him still to catch up. I'm sure he'll drop the hammer and try and get back with that lead pack. What I could see, I didn't catch the whole shot, but it appeared to be that Paul Whibley, Jordan Ashburn, Mullins, Russell, and it may have been Rory Mead and Grant Baylor were the other 2 KTMs we saw come through that shot there.
Mark LaBelle running 4th in the senior A40-plus class behind Francis Carousel. Then we got Kenny Hawkins in 5th, Harry Engelhart in 6th, and Patrick Tremblay rounds out 7th place. Open B class, Adam Phillips, Jordan Burkert, Tyler Anderson 3rd. Ryan Emmon drops, he's in 4th right now. We're used to seeing him up about 1st or 2nd. Damian Madison is 5th. Daniel Sladovnik is running in the number 6 spot. Frank Gallo in 7th. C.J. Seitinger in 8th. Sterling Daniels is 9th, and Joe Sariski rounds out your top 10. 250B class, Joshua Tack is your leader in that one. Julian McIntyre running 2nd. Charlie Morrison running in the number 3 spot. Now, that Joshua catch that we were talking about in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, remember we told you that he had, according to time adjustments, was leading the overall. Well, his lap time went from 25 minutes to 30 minutes, so...
Yeah, he's got that 30-minute and 18-second lap time. Second place in his class, Julian McIntyre, it appears, has a 35:37. So, again, that could be the case of a reroute, or maybe he's just riding that well.
He could very well be riding that well. McIntyre in 2nd, like you said. Charlie Morrison running in the number 3 spot. Luke Rush is 4th. Nicholas Johnson in 5th. Alexandro Diaz in the number 6 spot. Zach Perry is 7th. 8th spot, Jorge Diaz. 9th spot, Bailey Donnell, and we've got 10th place, the 521 of Cope Beckert in the 250B class. In the 200B class, Willie Ruckel right there out of Morgantown, West Virginia with the lead in that one. Had an 11-second lead over Luke Ross, the 586. In 3rd, Russell Smith, 255. Dawson Dunnick, the 543 in 4th. And Braden Moore rounds out the top 5 in the 200B class. 4-stroke B lights, Braxton McGee, your leader, over Michael Tetlow in 2nd. Chris McManus is 3rd. Trey Johnson in 4th. Garrett Coe in 5th. Dakota Sims in 6th. Hunter Ayers is 7th. Alex Ankrum is 8th. 9th is Matthew White, and 366 Josh McDonald rounds out your top 10. Vet B 30-plus class, William Lackey leading that one by almost 4 minutes after that first lap. Daryl Schlabach in 2nd. Joe Maurice is 3rd. Larry Hopper in 4th. And Jeremiah Spence rounds out your top 5. And Senior B 40-plus, Scott Campbell, Jay Derryberry, Federico, I'm not sure what his last name is. Charles Wagner in 4th. John Kohler in 5th. Devin Ferguson in 6th. And Shane Pinion rounds out 7th place. Some old Buddy Tread right there from Maxxis Tires. That's his name. Yeah, we're done. We're taking a look at that. And, of course, we got a big day ahead of us. Of course, Charlie Mullins out front leading this one right now, and I know that with coming into this day, a lot of questions, I'm sure, were plaguing a lot of people's minds. What was Charlie's mindset coming into this one after the big win there at the first round? And then, of course, with the mud being a great equalizer and things like that today, wonder what was on his mind? Well, we talked with him before the race got underway.
A little bit, but nothing too extreme. Just kind of preparing for the water and stuff, and big thing, just keep my bike running this time and get out of here with some points is the main goal.
Well, Johnny, I think that probably is a pretty main goal for a lot of people, and I know that Caleb Russell has got that same goal also, although he's hoping that he can not only gain some points, but he's hoping that maybe some of these guys will lose some points with some malfunctions or something today. Don't look like that's happening. That's one thing that we haven't seen or heard a lot of, and that's bikes breaking down today, Johnny.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've got obviously Andrew DeLong spending some time in the pits. We still don't know exactly what the issue was there. We can assume, obviously, given the conditions, that it may have been mud and water related. But I'm sure we can get a scoop a little bit later after the race. But Caleb's got a good point there. With these conditions, obviously anything can happen and will happen, and we've still got a lot of racing left. But with Caleb losing the points that he lost in Florida, one thing that we need to point out is what could have been a complete loss of a day. Caleb salvaged a 9th place and a 14th overall, which scored him 7 points towards his championship hopes.
Wow.
Charlie scored 30, so obviously there's a 23-point deficit there. And it's obviously not just these two guys. There's a lot of guys that came into the season looking for a championship. I know Paul Whibley, a former champion, he's up in the mix again today. He's going to do everything he can to come out of here with max points. And, the Axe Man, he does what it takes. And in conditions like this, as we started to discuss earlier, strength is really something that we don't see a whole lot in off-road racing come into play. But in a condition like this, it really maxes out your grip strength. It's hard to hold on to those slippery grips. The bikes are heavy if you crash. So a strong, more, stout guy like Paul Whibley maybe has a little bit of an advantage on a day like today.
All right, sounds like we got an update coming out near the Mulch Pile, from what I understand. Go ahead, update.
Yeah, buddy, we're at 8 Mile.
8 miles might just be the fringe of our radio conversation. Okay, you might want to hold your radio up in the air. You started, and then we lost it. Yeah, 10-4, you're there.
We have a new leader. Caleb Russell has made it out to the front, followed by Charlie Mullins. Josh Strang seems to be in the 3rd spot, and Whibley's falling back to 4th.
10-4. All right, now the question is, someone actually said that we had Meade and Baylor physically in the lead right now. Is that the case?
That's a big 10-4.
All right, so those guys are physically in the lead. This is the battle in the XC1 Pro Class, it sounds like, Johnny.
Yeah, and I'd venture to guess that the bike they thought was Josh Strang was more likely than not Jordan Ashburn. We saw a shot at the 7-mile marker, and Josh was a good little bit back, probably 20 seconds or so. So unless we'll know here in just a few minutes. They actually, if they're at the 8-mile marker, what we can see right across from our RacerTV studio here is the 9-mile marker. So within just a couple of minutes, we'll see these guys checking in. But I'm not clear on the update there. I think they were clarifying that Rory Meade has the physical lead in the XC2 class. I don't think that they've actually made it their way past the XC1 guys. I'd say they're probably in the mix with them.
Well, real quick, taking a look at this right now after 2 laps complete, working on 3. We're doing about 7 minutes for our 3rd lap complete. We have reports that Russell is now out front of Mullins, and last time around we had Ashburn and Whibley and Bach rounding out the top 5. Sounds like Strang might have been able to make up a little distance out there. And then, of course, Baylor running a solid top 10 right now. Takeshi Koikata running solid in the mud today. Jason Thomas, I believe, quite possibly our top rookie, if I look through the standings right now, and that is the case. And then our 2nd-place rookie in this XC1 Pro Class is Ryan Sipes. A lot of folks wondering and expecting big things out of him down in Florida. Obviously, the mud might have taken away from a little bit of that. And then today, not really knowing what to expect out of Sipes. But, with that, I also wonder what was his mindset like after Florida and heading into today. And we had a chance to talk to him this morning.
Hey, it's Ryan Sipes. We're out here at round 2, the general of the GNCC series. Round 2, round 1 was a little rough. I ran good at the beginning and then had some cramps, lost a back brake, had a little bit of bad luck at the end there, but I've been working this week, working hard and changing a few things in my diet and all that, and hoping for better results this weekend. I think my speed was good, it's just finding that last hour, being able to finish it off.
All right, actually, I think we caught up with him yesterday, according to the Sunshine.
I'm guessing that was not this morning. I don't think we need the technical advisors to tell us that one. The background can tell the story.
Yeah, we caught up with him yesterday. But that, he seems to be pretty optimistic, though, still after that first round, I think.
Absolutely. Ryan Sipes has certainly has the bike skills and the talent and the conditioning and the strength and everything that he needs to be successful as a GNCC racer. It's just going to be a matter of him, putting all the pieces together. We've seen it in the past, as we discussed a week ago. We've seen it with riders like Fred Andrews. We've seen it with Zach Osborne. We've seen it with, a number of different riders over the years that have honed their skills into GNCC after years as outdoor motocross, supercross, various other arenas for them to showcase their skill.
Yeah, and of course, you got Ryan Sipes that's making the crossover from motocross and stuff. But, so many of the riders that are out there on the track grew up through the youth ranks. And actually, and you included there, Johnny Gallagher. And actually, we have the youth racing continuing here today. And I talked a little bit about it earlier, talking with some of those kids and the conditions and stuff, saying, it's not really that bad out there. Well, actually, we had a pretty good race this morning, and when it was whenever the mud all settled in on this one, we had a pretty happy podium.
We're down here with today's youth overall winner, Sam Thurman. Sam, it was a muddy one out there. Tell us about your day.
Well, I got off to a really bad start, dead last, and by the first lap, I was up to second, I think, behind Kyler, or I think I was in the lead. And those first, I don't know how many laps I did, but all the way to the last 2 laps, I just tried to stay up as much as I could and not crash any, and stay really smooth and calm. And the last 2 laps use all my energy I had stored up for those last 2 laps.
Now talk about the track conditions a little bit. It's pretty slick out there. I know there were a lot of youth riders out there. So what was the best way that you could, focus on getting around all those guys and just finishing on 2 wheels?
Well, I walked the track the day before, so I had a lot of 2 feet off the track lines picked out where I could get around. And mainly, if I couldn't get around, we had to force around them because you couldn't just wait 5 or 10 seconds. But I live in Tennessee where it's usually slick and muddy kind of thing, and I love it. I love the mud where it gets hard packed and slick, so I'm really a fan of this kind of racing.
Well, it definitely showed. Congratulations on the overall win here today.
Thank you.
Oh, big Sam Thurman right there, man. That's good to see that kid really coming into his own there today. That was a pretty challenging race for those kids today, but they really laid down some laps, no doubt about it.
Rodney, the list of things that's cool about GNCC racing is too long to even get started on, but I'd say at or near the top of that list is the fact that those are the stars of tomorrow, and they're here racing today. They're racing on the same track, the same day as their maybe, someday soon fellow competition XC1 riders, Charlie Mullins, Caleb Russell, Chris Bach, Paul Wibley, all these guys, they're out there doing battle on the very same track at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yes, they are, and I've talked to so many people that used to talk about he used to be my hero, or he's my hero, and when I was a youth rider, and there they are lining up against him. It's a pretty neat thing.
My hero growing up now lays out the tracks. Man by the name of Barry Hawk.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
I can believe that.
7 ATV championships, 68 wins. He's the man.
He is the man. And your hero is now Junior Trail Boss. Are you going to be a trail? Oh, and you followed suit. That's why you're working with RacerTV this year, right?
Yeah, I'm not cut for setting out trail. Those guys they're beasts, man. I mean, I see what they go through during normal conditions, let alone inclement conditions like today. Jeff Russell and Barry Hawk, they're men. They are real men.
The cutting of the trail is the easy part. I think they'll tell you that right now. They go out and lay these tracks out. That's a piece of cake. It's days like today in particular that make it so hard. You got guys like 1982 National Hare Scramble champ Tommy Harris, sweet master, man, that goes out and just gets waist deep in that mud, man, tearing people out. Does more laps than anybody. He does youth racing, he does 10 o'clock racing, and he does the afternoon racing, and he does it both days and probably puts in more laps than anybody out there. And I'd be hard-pressed to say that this guy would be a terror if he was to actually go out and race. Hey, here's the update that we got from out at the Mulch Pile there just a few moments ago. Caleb Russell in the lead, leading through that. And you're right, Johnny, those whoops are starting to get a little bit deeper through there. There is Mullins running in the number 2 spot as these guys have began to make their way. Roy Mead is, wow, you said he was going to be close, and you could see him. By golly, he can see him right now. And Grant Baylor's right behind him, Johnny. I mean, come on.
Now, this was back, like they said, this was a little bit further back in the trail. We've actually seen them come through the field section, and now are working their way towards the finish. We should see them within a minute here, I'd say. But things have mixed up a little bit since then. But at that point, Rory Mead physically within 5 to 8 seconds of the physical overall lead. And here they come checking in for the completion of lap 3.
Yes. They should be getting a 2-lap board at this one. Lap time this last time around 28:26, so I think we're going to be more than...
Rodney, how many times have we ever seen this? This is the finish line chicane, and there's no less than 12 to 15 crew members pointing these guys through the turn coming to the finish. That's how bad things are. This is in the finish line chicane.
Yeah, 2-lap board is out. Caleb says here Charlie Mullins is out front. I guess he would be, maybe? Yeah.
Yes, you can tell by the helmet. That's Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie with that Bell helmet. And I think we have Jen with an update down here near the finish line.
Jen's probably waiting in water right now.
It appears Jen's mic's having some technical difficulties, so we'll
Pound
wait
it on
to
the
get
ground. There she is. We see her.
We can see you, but we're not making any sound. So, but yeah, we saw coming in through there. I mean, those guys are all together. They can all see each other. If we go and look at our update here, it was Charlie Mullins in the lead, Caleb Russell in second, Jordan Ashburn third, Paul Wilby in fourth, Chris Bach fifth, and Josh Strang in the sixth position. All of those guys inside of what appears to be about 25 seconds. So it's anybody's race at this point. And if we go to our overall, we can see that Rory Mead and Grant Baylor are 1-2 in our overall right now. So they were in that mix just as we saw earlier. That's what it looked like. So those guys right now are I'm not putting any of the XCA1 guys down, but we might see some history made here today.
Well, I'm looking at this right now. I'm going to tell you something. 122.53. So it's only 40-some. Well, it is 40-some seconds now, I guess, that separate those guys. So I guess it's starting to get a little bit farther. There's Barry Hawk and Jeff Russell, Trail Boss, and Junior Trail Boss right now contemplating. And there's seven-time national champion Randy Hawkins out there. They're all talking the strategy of getting these guys through this 2 hours unscathed as possible, I guess.
And we see Chris Bach just now checking in. So obviously we were seeing a little bit of last lap's results. Chris has dropped off quite a bit there, over a minute. Looks like he's physically 9th overall now. Yep, 9th. And then we're waiting on Jesse Grom, who was 10th overall last lap, and that would have made him 3rd in our XC2 class. So still waiting on 3rd place in the XC2. We've got Rory Mead and Grant Baylor 1-2 in XC2. And in the overall, Charlie Mullins, Caleb Russell, and Jordan Ashburn are 1-2-3 in the XC2 class, which rounds out our top 5 overall, followed by Paul Wibley, Josh Strang, Stu Baylor, and Chris Bach. And those are your 9 riders who have completed 3 laps here today at the Maxxis General GNCC in these wet conditions.
40 seconds behind Grant Baylor is Charlie Mullins on time adjustment. Add just a little bit more to that, about 6 more seconds. Call it 46.5 seconds now behind Rory Mead in the lead. We've seen both Caleb Russell and Charlie Mullins make up unbelievable amounts of time in the closing laps of a Grand National Cross Country Championship race. But the question is, with the mud here, and like Johnny says his dad used to say, the mud is the great equalizer. Will it come to fruition today for Mullins and Russell?
You know, Rodney, let's start to play this out. I know we've still got 2 laps left, obviously, 3 down, 2 to go. Your auntie, KTM team manager, you've got 4 KTMs up front in the top 4 positions overall, but you've got a little bit of parity here. What do you do with Charlie Mullins and Caleb Russell? Obviously, they run their own race, but, you know, these guys are constantly getting advice. They're getting strategy from their pit boards. Do these guys wick it up and try and make up that 40 seconds, you physically stretch that out to a minute on Mead and Baylor, or do they focus on themselves, stick to their XC1 points, and let the overall fall where it may? I mean, this is where, in a race like this, conditions like this, you really have to wonder. Ultimately, it's up to them, but what are their crews going to tell them? How's this all going to pan out? More likely than not, most of these guys are going to be maybe not fuel, but stopping for goggles. And I know for myself and nearly everyone else I see, you know, you're getting those little tidbits of information. So they know that Rory Mead and Grant Baylor are ahead of them on corrected time. So are they going to go after him, or are they going to let it be?
That's a good question. I'm sitting here contemplating. I'm thinking from a team standpoint and a overall championship standpoint. I would say as the team, just do your own thing. Don't worry about those guys. And, you know, 3rd and 4th, you guys are going to be the ones battling for the championship most likely whenever it's all said and done anyway. So this few extra points that these guys are gaining today and they are losing may not be as detrimental in the end as it would be to try to push and catch them, make a mistake, blow up a bike, or do something crazy and completely score no points.
I agree with you wholeheartedly from a philosophical standpoint.
From a racer standpoint, though.
Well, let me throw devil's advocate in here. Caleb Russell was looking for a way to make up points. Grant Baylor and Rory Mead may be his best friends. If he could somehow get around Charlie, put the hammer down, and go after, when we say go after, obviously, folks at home tuning in, you need to understand, with the time correction, there's a 60-second deficit that Rory Mead and Grant Baylor have overcome. They're not physically ahead of Charlie Mullins, Caleb Russell, Paul Whibley, Josh Strang. They're just right with these guys. So they've got a 40-second lead, if you will, and it's a virtual lead because they're actually 20 seconds behind, but because of that 60-second advantage, they have a 40-second lead. So Caleb Russell, if he finds this out and is able to get around Charlie, he physically doesn't actually have to pass Grant and Rory. They're behind him. But if he can pull out a minute on those guys and grab the overall, let's talk points for a minute. 30 points for a win, 25 for second, 21 for third, 18 for fourth, and then it's a single-point drop each position from there back. Mathematics tells me that Caleb is 23 points behind Charlie right now. He wants to make up points. So if he wins, Charlie finishes second. That's 5 points, drops that to 18. If he wins and Charlie finishes fourth because Rory and Grant are in between there, do some math.
Wow, very good point.
Now we're talking not only cutting his deficit by 5 points, but potentially cutting it by 8 if Charlie finishes third, or an additional 3 more would be 11 if Charlie finishes fourth.
And that would be monumental, honestly. Very, very monumental. The points right now, as you see, that's the way the point standing look coming into this one, and that's overall. Caleb Russell is all the way back in 14th. You don't even see his name on there as we look at that right now. But we saw the graphic up on the TV, folks. It's time now to start tweeting, if you will, the predictions, your podium predictions for the finish of this Maxxis General GNCC. Hashtag it GNCC Live, and you can win yourself possibly $250 in AMSOIL products. All righty, folks. It looks like with that in mind, get your tweets out. And, again, hashtag them GNCC Live so we can group them properly. And, of course, we are now 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 30 seconds into this race. And we'll be back with more of the Maxxis General GNCC right after this.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
Here at the Ampro Yamaha factory team, we've been using the Evans products probably 5+ years, no issues. I mean, that's one thing we know we can count on for as cooling. This year we had a radiator to get a hole knocked in. We lost probably 2/3 of our coolant, our Evans, and the bike, we still didn't have a bike failure. We feel like we have an advantage on our competitors, especially when races get really tough, technical, and the bikes overheat.
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's rubber submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com. The top racers choose the Sunstar Work Z stainless steel rear sprocket. Featuring an offset tooth designed for self-cleaning, it's up to 40% lighter and 3 times more durable than standard steel. Teamed with the Power Drive powder shaft sprocket and Works triple guard sealed ring chain, you've got unbeatable performance and durability. Sunstar drives Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, Adam McGill, Jared McClure, and many others. Watch for them on the podium all year long.
And welcome back to the Maxxis General GNCC. As we can see, we had beautiful sunshiny skies on Friday and Saturday coming into this race on Sunday. And crew had a chance to go up and check things out from an aerial perspective. Both Digital Dave from racedaypicks.com and also Nick, cousin Nick, our camera guy, one of our camera guys on the RacerTV crew, getting some beautiful shots of this beautiful Aonia Pass motocross facility. Motocross track, the GNCC trails, miles and miles of trails, and then, of course, they've got the flat, round, oval track that they do some TT stuff on and everything, and obviously Double D had a good time out there while that was all going on.
And what a great facility this is. You know, we've been coming here for a number of years. 2003 was our first year here, if memory serves me, so that'd be 11 years here at the Aonia Pass Motocross facility. A little bit different this year. The first year that I can recall coming here and not utilizing the actual motocross track.
I know.
And I think that was, just speculating here, I think that was probably partially a decision with obviously the weather that was incoming, and there is an ATVMX National here next weekend, so, you know, those guys may not have been able to make the appropriate repairs to the motocross track facility, so they decided to stick it to the woods, and turned out to be a good call because, you know, as bad as the conditions are, we've got a great racetrack here today, and we're seeing that with the 4, 5, 6-way battle we've got for the lead right now between Rory Mead, Grant Baylor, Caleb Russell, Charlie Mullins, Paul Whibley, Josh Strang, Jordan Ashburn. You know, all these guys are right together and wheel to wheel. Wow. And this is all going to be decided here within the next 2 laps.
Dropping like flies. Some of them are out there in sections of the track. We're watching out the race day studio windows. We're seeing riders stuck up past their...
That's Grant Baylor right there checking in at the 7-mile marker.
Whoa, look at that.
And we got a little loop-de-loop.
See, that goes to show you maybe it ain't so easy after all, even for the pro riders.
And also, you can see on his front fender there, he's running the strap that a lot of these teams will run in the very bad conditions. And so let's see, that's Jordan Ashburn now, and I'm assuming that's physically 2nd overall. And there is Caleb Russell, physically 3rd overall. Charlie Mullins there in the Bell helmet, that's physically 4th overall. So Grant Baylor, unless we missed Rory Mead, and there's Paul Whibley. That would make him 5th overall. We see Randy Hawkins cheering these guys on, and Josh Strang as well checking in. So Strang's back up with this lead battle. Did not see Rory Mead. That doesn't mean we didn't miss him. But going off what we saw on our screen, it appears that Grant Baylor is in the physical overall lead. We'll wait to see until they get to the 8. Maybe we can get an update there at the mulch pile. Yes, Jordan Ashburn was the first XC1 bike that came by that shot.
Wow, that's pretty good show for Ashburn. Jordy, you know, last year he had such a remarkable freshman season, his rookie season. His sophomore year, he didn't seem to set the world on fire. Not that he had a bad season. I think he still finished 7th after the championship was all said and done, but we didn't see the glimpses of greatness we saw out of him in this rookie season. Last year he just didn't seem like the same person, but, man, this year a whole different person. There's Stu Baylor right there.
Yeah, and Stu actually putting in a good solid ride there. That would make him, I'm guessing, 6 or 7 in XC1 and 7, 8-ish overall. And that is Rory Mead right there. So Rory has dropped a good ways back here, unless his XC2 teammate has the same gears, same setup, everything. I'm 99% certain that was Rory that just came by that camera shot. So Rory's dropped off a good bit, which leaves Grant all alone out front in the physical overall lead, in the physical XC2 lead, and being chased down by Jordan Ashburn, Charlie Mullins, Caleb Russell, Paul Whibley, and Josh Strang were all the riders that were hot on his heels as they came through that shot.
Wow, I just saw Auntie Cullinan out in the woods a few moments ago. It didn't take him long. Hey, don't be drinking that hot coffee in front of me like that. And he just walked by the Race Day Studios just a moment ago, and, man, he's busy. One side of this facility to another, man. I mean, I don't see how he's moving so quick.
Yeah, they got to get around. They got to make sure those guys get through those mud holes.
He's teleporting.
Yeah, he's teleporting. GNCC racing is an individual sport, but the teams behind these guys, they're out there waist deep. We've seen, Auntie, we've seen Randy Hawkins, we've seen various crew members in blue shirts, orange shirts, yellow shirts, red shirts, whatever it may be. Generally correlates to the color of the motorcycle they're trying to get through the mud hole. So, one thing to touch on real quick here, and I'll be the first to admit I was a bit critical of Grant Baylor in Florida. He wrapped up that championship in XC2 at the end of last season, and then really kind of had some rough finishes at the end of the year. Even wrapping up that championship, just didn't seem like maybe that fire was there. Maybe something was just a bit off with Grant. And today, to see him physically charge his way up through from the second row, not only on corrected time, but now physically having passed every single XC1 rider on the track, kudos to him. Who knows? Maybe he went back, watched the live feed, and, we're somewhat buddies, and maybe he was like, oh, really, Johnny? That's what you think of me? And, you just want to see these guys give their all, and Grant Baylor's certainly doing just that today.
Man, I tell you, we've seen a lot of people giving their all today. We talked about the youth class, and, we mentioned quite often the 10 o'clock race. And, one of our feature classes in the morning race program on these Sunday mornings anymore is, obviously all the excitement going on in the women's class, or what is now deemed as the WXC, with JP Money, Jessica Patterson making her way over, and, of course, Casey Martinez, and then we've got Mandy Maston, all the key players. But there were some like 28 WXC riders that signed up and took off this morning, Johnny. And I think that's showing something pretty good for the women in cross country these days. And they all did well.
Absolutely. In these tough conditions, to have 28 female riders out there in the women's premier class. They also have that women's amateur class. So, upwards certainly of 30, 40, maybe even 50 women out there this morning. Women's off-road racing is alive and well. Like you said, we've seen crossover stars like Jessica Patterson come over. Casey Martinez moved here last year from the Work Series, where Maria Forsberg joined us from a number of years ago. And then our podium today consisted of Casey Martinez with the win, Becca Sheets in second, and Jessica Patterson in third. So there was two NFAB Ampro Yamahas up there with the factory KTM Martinez grabbing the win. And those girls, you could tell when that race was over, they were happy it was over. They all commented. I talked to them, and they just said things were bad. And when you said how bad was it, they just kind of grin and say, made it through on the podium, happy. That's about all they had to say.
Out on the dash track back there before we got into the woods, and from there I just tried to ride my own race and look for the right lines, and it wasn't too slippery. It's just standing water everywhere, so it's hard.
Yeah, I tell you, you're looking at that podium right there. You see Casey taking the celebrations there on the podium, man. I tell you, she really stepped up. She's got some big shoes to fill, too, if you think about it. Moving over to the FMF KTM team, taking Maria Forsberg-Hahn's position from the women's class. But you can see, man, they started off this morning. It was rather wet, but nothing like what we saw, I don't believe, whenever the XC1 Pros took off there a little bit ago.
No, I think the track was certainly in a little bit better condition this morning in terms of, obviously, the fields. They got worse as the race went on. We see Casey at the finish there, and you can just see the standing water and the kind of body posture of relief coming across the line, knowing she grabbed the win. And great ride by her, and obviously Becca Sheets in second and Jessica Patterson in third. All those girls did a great job today. Finished with not only on the women's XC podium, but also very high up in the overalls, which really lets them showcase their skills against the boys.
For sure it does. And as we check back in with what's going on right now, an hour and 42 minutes into this one, 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and we should be seeing the leaders check in for lap 4 complete and a white flag, if I'm not mistaken. They'll have 4 laps down, and then they'll head into lap number 5 at that point. It is still Meade and Baylor, or actually Baylor, we know at least, is still out front and done that physically from that XC2 Pro Lights class. And Johnny, I just got to tell you, man, I would probably run down these guys, but we've seen them on and off so many times. There's so many changes from our top standings that it'd be kind of moot, I think, to actually go through it right now.
Yeah, I think we need to go more off the updates. We're seeing what's on the screen in terms of the live feed rather than the timing and scoring. With GNCC Racing, we obviously have our scoring loop at the finish line, but then we also have multiple different checkpoints throughout the course. Those don't actually update on our screen here, though. So what we see, what we can physically see, is more accurate than what we see on our timing and scoring screen at times. So especially on a day like today, you mentioned, we've got 6-7 guys nose to tail, every mud hole, every bottleneck, every field section even, they're changing positions. Things are just crazy out there. So I think we've got an update coming in, so we'll see what they have to say.
Go ahead, update.
Leaders just came through the Emsville 8-mile mark. XC2 Grant Baylor was out front, followed by Jordan Ashburn. Russell was in third, and we had Mullins in fourth.
10-4.
So that's the same running order we saw him at the 7. It looks like things have settled in a bit, and we didn't hear Rory Mead's name in there, so we can assume that that rider we saw that we were pretty sure was him, just a little bit back of that group, still second in XC2, but has definitely dropped out of that top 3 overall position on corrected time.
Well, as we look at this one, we're now about an hour and 44 minutes into this one, working on an hour 45. According to calculations, we've got just about 7 minutes and 1 lap of racing left to go, and everybody wants to know, how's it all going to finish up? Will the XC2 Pro Lights make history here today and take the overall win? Well, we'll find out here shortly as GNCC Live continues on RacerTV.
Twins have notoriously been very hard on crankshafts because that big long stroke of those 2 cylinders just flexes the crankshaft around. So we were seeing bearing issues. Research development people at AMSOIL could show us that it was likely an oil problem. And they were correct. That was the issue. Instead of having to redesign the engine, I just had to do a better quality oil.
Sometimes you come across something so different, you just have to stop and check it out. The Rocky Mountain ATV MC website has everything you need, from our huge selection of apparel and gear to dirt bike accessories and OEM parts. Our extensive inventory means most orders arrive in 3 days or less. Get low prices, quick shipping, and incredible customer service. RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready.
Find your flow with Maxxis tires.
Motocross, for me, has never been about the fame or
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's rubber submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com.
Now, don't be frightened when you see this weekend's championship trophy. This gun here represents a lot of history here in the Washington, Georgia area. The GNCC series tries to put a unique twist on all the championship trophies, and guys, I can't wait to see who's going to put this one on their mantle.
All righty, thanks a lot. That's a pretty neat looking trophy there, Johnny.
Man, I wish I would have won yesterday.
Welcome back to
Might have to steal that one from Walker.
Welcome back to RacerTV.com's GNCC Live. Rodney Tomlin and Johnny Gallagher. Almost called you Walker after you said that. And then, of course, we got Jen Kenyon and Charlie Walker.
I'm better looking, let's face it.
And anyway, we got GNCC going mud style here. It's an hour and 48 minutes into this one, Johnny, and we got we've seen the leaders going by in the just a moment ago. Grant Baylor still physically in the lead. Whenever we saw him, he was changing goggles out there in the field, and then, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that Charlie that came by in second, which would put him in first in the XC1 Pro class now, right?
Yeah, as they came by the 9-mile marker while we were away at commercial break, Grant Baylor was in the physical overall lead. It was difficult to tell from this distance, but it appeared to be Charlie Mullins who was in that second-place physical overall position, which would make him first XC2 rider, and then he was followed. No, that's not Grant there. That would make we had Jordan Ashburn was right on Charlie's heels, so that would make him second in XC2, third overall, and then followed by Caleb Russell and Paul Whibley. We're all right together there. And again, we did not see Rory Mead in with that lead group, so as we had kind of suspected earlier from a camera shot, it appears something's jumped up on the trail and dropped him back just a bit. Certainly doesn't mean he couldn't come back, but as of right now, he's dropped out of that top 3 overall.
Here's something interesting. You know, Stu Baylor and his brother Grant, who is now the XC2 Pro Lights champion, seems to be smashing every record that Stu Baylor ever was able to accomplish. The one thing that Stu came close on and never was able to do was win the overall. Question is, what is it going to be like in Baylor Brothers Racing whenever that all takes place if the young gun actually takes the overall? I think you'll be happy for him, but you know there's going to be a little animosity there.
Certainly. You know, those two are very competitive with each other, competitive individuals all across the board here in XC1 and XC2 level, but when it's your little brother, it makes it a little bit more – it's special because he's happy for him. Obviously, he loves his brother, wants to see him succeed, but at the same time, probably wishes he could succeed just a little bit below the level that Stu set a few years ago. But today, Grant's leading the way, so awesome showing by him so far. And within the next 2 minutes or so, we should see him checking in here for potentially a white flag in the overall lead. And that is Grant Baylor, right there, coming towards the finish line. And that is Caleb Russell now in second place. That's definitely not Charlie. So Caleb, as we said, maybe seeing an opportunity to gain some points here and going to try and get away from Charlie. Maybe in this last lap, he's going to try and make a run at Grant, get away, and try and put that money on him. One interesting thing, we saw Grant Baylor get goggles in the field just a mile ago. No goggles on right now. So obviously those goggles are not the way to go. He's decided to pitch those, and Caleb does have goggles on, so he's a little bit of an advantage there as far as what he can see. And it appears those two have broken away a little bit from what was Jordan Ashburn Charlie Mullins battle. And here it comes now.
You would think that looking at that, you've got to wonder what's the lap times like. 27:40 for Grant Baylor, 27:56 for Caleb Russell. He lost 16 seconds to the young Baylor.
And we've got Paul Whibley checking in third, Jordan Ashburn in fourth. He actually made that pass there coming into that last turn. That appears to be Josh Strang now in fifth, and Charlie Mullins in sixth. So those guys are all right together and certainly going to lay it to each other this last lap and see who can take that number 1 spot in the XC1 class.
Watching now to see what's going on there with Mead. We kind of expect to see him check in here pretty soon, but at the same time, Johnny, I think we noted that he'd fallen off pace quite a bit there a few miles ago.
What we saw at the 7-mile marker, just as a guess, he was somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 seconds to a minute back of Grant Baylor. So, unless he's put in a heck of a charge, I'd assume to see a similar deficit here now. So we've got some other riders from some other classes checking in, and now that maybe is Rory Mead checking in. It's hard to tell. These guys, as you're watching the feed, you can see at home, they're just different shades of brown is all we're looking at.
That's about the truth of it. They were different shades of gray and black, I think, whenever we were in Florida with that mud down there. It made it tougher in that one, too.
Rodney, if we go ahead and refresh that feed quick, we see Stu Baylor just checked in.
Yeah.
So that would make him now 6th in the XC1 class. A little bit of a comeback. He was a little bit further back earlier. So the Baylor boys are using this mud to their advantage. We talked earlier about the strength, and both of those guys are big, strong kids. And, Grant obviously out front leading the way, and Stu now into that 6th place position. So these guys are definitely getting it done. Now Rory Mead has checked in 7th overall, but 2nd in the XC2 class. So, and if we look at his lap time there, he had a 29:44 to Grant Baylor's 27:40. So obviously Rory had some issues that lap, and still running a great race there in 2nd, but has let Grant get a little way a bit.
Well, a couple minutes in now to our final lap, the Racer X last lap, going on right now as we speak. And again, Grant Baylor, Caleb Russell, Paul Whibley, Jordan Ashburn, Josh Strang, your top 5. Charlie Mullins in 6th overall, Roy Mead in 7th, Stu Baylor in 8th. And looking for Chris Bach to check in here shortly in the number 9 spot with Trevor Bollinger, new to the XC2 Pro Lights class, was running 3rd in the class. And Grant Baylor now making his way through this big field section, looks like, Johnny.
Yeah, this is the section in the very back side of the property towards the pro pits. We see Caleb now just a couple bike lengths behind him. And what we're watching here is potentially a ride to history. We've had this XC1 class since, correct me if I'm wrong, Rodney, but it was 2006 maybe-ish. We've had it around for a number of years. Now we see Paul Whibley into the 2nd place position in XC1 and 3rd overall, and Jordan Ashburn right behind him there. But yeah, all these years of over the years we've seen these guys battle their way up through from the 2nd position, or 2nd row actually, with that 1 minute deficit that they start with. They're then credited back that 1 minute towards their overall time at the end of the race. So the times that you see on live timing and what we're looking at here on our screen, those are reflective of the 60-second credit that Grant Baylor and all of the other XC2 riders have received. So we see last lap Grant checking in with that 27:40, Caleb Russell checking in with a 27:56. Grant physically made up 16 seconds and was ahead of Caleb by just a few seconds, but when you actually add the 60 seconds that Grant has from starting the 2nd row, he's leading by over a minute. Caleb Russell and Grant Baylor both in the pro pits, both number 1s, both last year's champions, nose to tail, and these guys are going at it today for the overall win. And so far, these are the only 2 through the pro pits. We should be seeing Paul Whibley next here, unless he snuck through the shot when they were fueling, but I didn't see him go through, so as of right now, it appears to be Grant, and there goes Paul there. So physically 3rd overall, 2nd in XC2. That's Jordan Ashburn there, 3rd in XC1, and we've got some other riders checking in there as well. You can tell by the conditions, the pro pits are getting pretty chewed up, and you can only imagine what some of the deeper, softer spots on the track look like. And we're joined by Jen Kenyon here in the RacerTV studio, checking in to give us the female perspective on today's mud.
As if the female perspective is any different than the male perspective on this race. But, while you were talking about Jordan Ashburn and those guys coming into Pro Row, it dawned on me that Jordan is always, right behind the podium finish. And I think this happened last year where he was running 3rd in XC1, but an XC2 guy got into that overall and knocked him off the 3rd place overall podium. And I just thought it was interesting that those races when Jordan's really having a standout ride and he's right up there in podium contention, technically he gets kind of knocked off that overall podium position, which is a bummer for him, but it's so good to see him have such an awesome ride.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if that's playing into his mindset looking ahead and seeing Grant up there. I'm sure he's aware that Grant on the time correction is ahead of him as well as physically. So, with him being physically 3rd overall, now he's physically 4th. He's looking, he needs to make that pass on Paul if he wants to get on that podium, and I'm sure he's going to try his best to do so in this final lap of racing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those guys know there's someone stuck right here in the middle of Pro Row. Looks like it's getting pretty chopped up there. These guys are just trying to make their way through. It's the final lap, so they're probably, as a racer's perspective, when you're on this final lap and the track conditions are not as favorable as usual, what goes through your mind as a racer? Like, do I just need to get through this, finish the race, and be done?
Well, I think they're physically fatigued, obviously. We're 2 hours in. Granted, it's a shorter race than they're used to, but as I've mentioned a couple times, mud races are very physically taxing, and it's not as much about conditioning as it is muscle strength. So, their hands are tired from hanging onto slippery grips. Guaranteed every one of these guys at some point has been on the ground today and had to pick their very heavy motorcycle up. So you hit the nail on the head. You're just, these guys are thinking, okay, I know this track is 9 miles, give or take, the way it's been modified. I got 9 miles to get this done. Not get stuck, put my best foot forward, and mistake-free. I mean, that's what's going through every one of these guys' mind, unless they're maybe outside of a podium position, and then they're thinking, let's throw caution to the wind, charge into some deep ruts, take the shortest line, straightest point, and see if we can make up some time.
Or if you're Charlie Mullins, who does have the points lead heading into this race, I don't know how things will shake up after today's race. Or Caleb Russell, he's in the position, he's got some championship points, he's ahead of Charlie Mullins at this point. Do you think Caleb is going to hang tight and try to just finish the race behind Grant, or is he going to try to, putting a minute plus on Grant Baylor right now in this last lap, that's going to be a pretty tough thing to do.
Definitely going to be a tall order for Caleb or for anybody else because, Grant can taste the blood right now. Certainly had a rough start in Florida, came back and put together a decent finish for the day, garnered some points, but, for him to see that physical overall, the physical win, he's not going to let that go easily. But as we talked about, it would be a great opportunity for Caleb to come and gain some of those points back. The 23-point deficit that he unfortunately left Florida with, the overall is worth an extra 5 if he could put Grant between himself and Charlie. And as of right now, we've got Paul Whibley, we've got Jordan Ashburn. Those guys are in between there. Potentially Rory Mead as well on time correction. He's right there with Charlie. So it's going to be interesting to see how this last lap plays out. And I know as a fan, I'm pretty enthused to see how it all happens.
That's right. But as we all know, the name of the game is finishing races, getting as many championship points as you possibly can. And right now, I think Caleb can take every single point that he needs. We're joined back with Rodney Tomlin. He is shivering. He's so cold. I think that he needs to get some talking going so he can warm himself up a little bit.
No, I need you to give me a break so I can go put some dry clothes on.
We see somebody, is that Nick Davis walking his bike back into the pro pits? That's a bummer for him.
Yeah, after this, Nick had some technical difficulties in Florida, and now this is, round number 2 that he's had some issues, so I'm sure he'll get those squared away, but a bummer for him today, and hopefully he can get things fixed up and ready to go for Steel Creek in just 2 weeks.
We haven't seen as many bikes broken down as you would think that we would in a race like this. We did see Andrew DeLong come back to the pits. I did see XC2 rider Chris Douglas. He pulled in at some point, and now we have Nick Davis. But really, that's not that many in the grand scheme of things right there on Pro Row. So that's got to be a good indication that maybe the trail isn't quite as bad as it looks right up here in the finish line area.
Yeah, and actually in the background of that shot, it looks like we have Thad Duvall in street clothes, so apparently he had some issues. But, no, I agree with you there, Jen. And, to the people at home watching, the woods are actually in pretty good condition. It appears that there's some deep ruts, there's some holes, but that's the way things are always here at the Georgia GNCC. It's tough. It's slippery Georgia clay, and that's what separates the men from the boys, and that's what we're seeing here today with with the way things are panning out.
Well, we're going to find out who the biggest man is in the mud today when it's all said and done, and we'll find out more about that in, about 17 minutes. And RacerTV's GNCC Live will continue right after this.
Twins have notoriously been very hard on crankshafts because that big, long stroke of those 2 cylinders just flexes the crankshaft around. So we were seeing bearing issues. Research development people at AMSOIL could show us that it was likely an oil problem. And they were correct. That was the issue. Instead of having to redesign the engine, I just had to do a better quality oil.
Yamaha factory team, we've been using the Evans products probably 5+ years, no issues. I mean, that's one thing we know we can count on for as cooling. This year we had a radiator to get a hole knocked in. We lost probably 2/3 of our coolant, our Evans, and the bike, we still didn't have a bike failure. We feel like we have an advantage on our competitors, especially when races get really tough, technical, and the bikes overheat.
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's rubber submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com. The top racers choose the Sunstar Work Z stainless steel rear sprocket. Featuring an offset tooth design for self-cleaning, it's up to 40% lighter and 3 times more durable than standard steel. Teamed with the Power Drive powder shaft sprocket and Works triple guard sealed ring chain, you've got unbeatable performance and durability. Sunstar drives Ryan Sykes, Thad Duvall, Adam McGill, Jared McClure, and many others. Watch for them on the podium all year long.
And welcome back to GNCC Live here on RacerTV.com. Rodney Tomlin, Johnny Gallagher, Jen Kenyon out and about, and plenty of things going on. Johnny, I think we just got some reports of some changes going on there as we run through this Racer X last lap. I believe that they're saying that maybe Baylor might have fallen off pace a little bit at this point.
Yeah, we had a report from the 7-mile marker that Grant Baylor is no longer the physical overall leader. It appeared that he may still have that lead on time correction, but as far as the physical lead, it appeared to be Charlie Mullins, as we were told. So we'll wait to see when they check in again. We should get an update at the 8-mile marker. But
wow.
We see this gentleman struggling through the section that those guys just made their way through with a relative amount of ease. But the track's getting chewed up. Final lap here, Rodney. These guys are going to have to pick good lines and make all the right moves if they want to get to the finish line first.
Definitely making things pretty tough with all these laps put on the track out here. And, Johnny, taking a look at this, we're a little over 2 hours now, and we were shooting, obviously, for at least a 2-hour race, and we kind of shortened it up a little bit, thinking that the possibility of looking at the radar, how much heavier the rain was going to be. We've been very blessed, though, because it's been kind of lighter than what forecast and radar had actually shown. But, man, when this thing got underway today, as we take a look at our Can-Am recap here, and of course don't forget about Can-Am riding 2-Up will never be the same now that they reinvented passenger ergonomics. Check them out at your local Can-Am dealer today. And of course, as we said, it was Josh Strang got the whole shot early on in that XC1 Pro class, and man, they took off into that first turn. It was kind of questionable and wondering how well that turn would hold up. I think it proved well, because the first turn held up, and just like the rest of the track, with as much rain as we've had, it's been really nice. But I tell you, from that point on, it was go for everybody, XC1 and XC2. I think some of those guys back on row 2 might have sensed the possibility of being able to break into that minute that those guys had on them on time adjustment.
Well, this is those conditions where we see that disadvantage of being up front. We talked about at the very beginning, Josh Strang having the advantage of not having the getting roosted, but then also having to choose all the lines. So now we're seeing what happened there is those XC2 guys charged up. They saw the lines that were working. They made up that deficit. And now either physically or on corrected time, we're not real sure yet till they get a little closer, but Grant Baylor maybe still leading this thing.
I'll tell you, the crazy thing about it, too, a lot of questions about Caleb Russell. Didn't get off to a great start in the whole shot, but by the end of the first lap, he was right up there in the thick of things. And actually, all those guys have been going back and forth and bouncing around quite a bit in the thick of things. Strang was there for a while. Whibley was there for a while. Mullins obviously still there and was there for a while. And also Caleb Russell. We've seen a few other guys.
Jordan Ashburn's been up in the battle all day long.
All day, yeah.
Rory Mead, Grant Baylor. We saw Chris Bach up there early. We've seen a number of guys up in there with the potential for a win or a podium today.
And it's not over yet. We are still about 11 minutes out from seeing a checker flag, and you still got time to get in and possibly win $250 in AMSOIL products. You can tweet your podium prediction finishes, podium finish predictions. And when you tweet, hashtag it GNCC Live, and you'll have a chance to win $250 in AMSOIL products. Winners will be chosen randomly, so you don't have to be right. You can say, Johnny Gallagher will win. You can be wrong if we pick your tweet, though. You will be.
I tell you what, Rodney, that's a long shot on Saturday and a really long shot on Sunday.
Next to impossible, I'd say, huh?
I'm sitting in here with you where it's warm and dry. We see Stu Baylor. He's getting his eyes wiped, and you can tell he's obviously gone down, but still running inside the top 10. He's getting a new pair of 100% goggles there, and he's off to finish out this last lap. We did see, Rodney, you were actually talking, but we did see Rory Mead check through our shot here at the 7-mile marker. Still appeared to be physically second in XC2. Not sure where that's going to fall in on the overall, judging by the time that it elapsed. I don't have a stopwatch going. I'm pretty confident that was outside of an overall podium position, but still certainly on the podium in the XC2 class.
Yes, for sure. And there is that Sipes down there?
Yeah, that's Ryan Sipes. He's actually at the Pro Pits, which is the 3.5-mile marker, and we saw our leaders come by the 7-mile marker, now approaching the 8. So Ryan's obviously looks like he is 8th physically on the track in the XC1 class. He's about 8 minutes and 9 seconds behind the 7th place rider, Chris Bach. So
wow.
At this point, he's certainly just trying to get some points, get through today, and he'll certainly learn some valuable lessons today about line choice and riding in the mud, and he'll be back strong, no doubt, next round in North Carolina.
One thing's for certain, you're not going to have experience until you get it under your belt, and that's what Ryan Sipes is in the process of making happen right now. As we take a look at things heading into this final lap of racing, Caleb Russell actually had the lead in the XC1 Pro class. Whibley was running second at the end of 4. Jordan Ashburn was third. Josh Strang was fourth, and Charlie Mullins was clear black in fifth. And those guys were all within 30 seconds, first to fifth. And we've got an update coming in from where was that, guys?
8-mile marker.
The 8-mile marker. Go ahead, update.
Yeah, once again out here at the Amsoil 8-mile mark, Caleb Russell's opened up probably a minute lead over second place. It looked like Jordan Ashburn, followed by Paul Whibley and the rest of the pack. They're heading back towards the 9 now.
Did you see Grant Baylor? I think he said that Grant Baylor was...
Jumped out to the big lead. I didn't see Baylor come through, but then again, I wasn't looking.
Okay. Actually, I think he might have misunderstood. He said that he had a minute lead. I think, well, maybe you're right. If he wasn't looking for Grant Baylor. Come back on that, Bill.
Baylor was about physically 6th or 7th on the track when they passed the 6.5.
Wow,
10-4,
so that's a
that.
big shakeup. We talked about Caleb. He had the opportunity. He saw Grant in front of him there, had put a little bit of gap on Charlie. Was he going to go after Grant? And maybe it was a good move on Caleb's part.
I tell you, I never heard anybody call it out as well as what you've called this today, Johnny. I mean, you made speculation all day long, and every speculation that you made about, well, obviously the points, and we were watching the points. Well, now that obviously that didn't seem to pan out, your second scenario is starting to pan out, man.
Hey, just because I've never won a race doesn't mean I don't know the things that I should be doing to make it happen. Caleb, obviously last year's champion. He's won a lot of races over the years. He certainly saw that opportunity to get some riders in between him. Didn't think he was going to lay down without a fight and let that overall go, because Caleb, these are 2-hour races and a lot of things roll through your head. You're focused on the track in front of you, but these guys are machines. They know how to ride. They know how to pick their lines, and they've got this subtext going on in their minds. And the one thing that Caleb's thinking is max points, max points, max points. And he knows that max points for today is 30, and that's for an overall win. And to do that, he needed to put a minute on Grant Baylor, and 2 things came into play there. Caleb needed to push the pace to try and get ahead of Grant, but also if Grant just rides comfortably, he's not going to make that mistake that Caleb needed to gain that minute back. So by pushing the pace, did Caleb potentially push Grant to his breaking point and, get that mistake that he needed from Grant to get that overall position?
Quite possibly. If that's the case, then Rory Mead definitely, I think, and a lot of the XC2 guys are going to owe a big gratitude of thanks to Caleb Russell for putting Grant in that position,
Well, and our update from the 6.5 did say that they believe Grant was 6 or 7 physically, which would still have him in the lead in the XC2 class. But, certainly a little bit closer back to Rory there in the number 2 ride in
exactly.
XC2.
That's what I mean.
And third place in XC2 last lap was
Trevor
Bollinger. He's riding possibly towards his first ever podium finish in XC2.
All right, there we go. I'm calling Caleb Russell Mullins. He's calling Caleb Russell Mullins and Mead for the overall. Actually, it's Russell Mullins and Mead is what they
see
say.
That little comma?
Yeah.
That's what that
Okay.
means.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So Shane Connor is the winner of our $250 from Amsoil. Shane Bob Pete at Shane Bob Pete. That's Shane Connor at Shane Bob Pete is our winner. Thanks for tuning in to RacerTV.com and of course GNCC Live.
I'm going to have to start tuning in and doing a little tweeting during the races. Not enough service today, but maybe it'll be a good update.
I've got more service than you could ever shake a stick at out here, man. There's 2 cell towers within 100 yards of where we're standing right now, and you don't have cell service.
My phone's been angry at me for the last 2 days. I don't know what's going on. It kind of does what it's want. You must have Verizon. I have AT&T.
Yeah, there you go. But right now, what's really neat, I want to talk a little bit about Trevor Bollinger. Trevor Bollinger was our top amateur last year, if you remember right. Open A, or was it 4-stroke A lights? Whatever the class was.
4-stroke A lights.
The kid was a terror in it, and he was expected to be a challenger in the XC2 Pro Lights, and he has already risen to the occasion. Another rider, Ricky Russell, the 212, is in 4th place in that class, and Shane Hufford, who was right up there with the guys for a bit, has now dropped off to the number 5 spot.
Yeah, and those 2 were 2nd and 3rd from our race in Florida. Rory Mead, obviously our winner from round 1, is running 2nd. So all 3 of those guys within the top 5, our top 3 from Florida. And then Grant Baylor obviously grabbing the lead so far, and Trevor Bollinger in 2nd. Those guys interjecting themselves into this XC2 championship battle early in the season. We've seen a lot of the players up front. So it's definitely good to see these guys getting their finishes in and getting the points they need to set themselves up going forward.
3:33 is the time that we've got before we expect to see our leaders in. And
Rodney, if I can break in here, I see Caleb Russell coming through the field section, it appears, over here at the 9-ish mile marker. He's got his head down, goggles off. He's making a pass on a lapper, and I'm trying to see if that maybe...
That's somebody coming in 2nd behind him right there, pretty hot.
Is that Paul Whibley?
I can't tell. He looks red and brown and that kind of color.
And there's Josh Strang. So we've got 4 riders all in the field at the same time. That's a blue bike in 2nd. That's Paul Whibley. And then we've got a faster brown rider in 3rd and Josh Strang in 4th.
Where did you see blue? I could not even pick that.
I caught some blue on Whibley's radiator shroud, and that was definitely Whibley. In 2nd, it appeared to be, if that was in fact Caleb. It was hard to tell the helmet from here, but I didn't see Charlie there. So is it possible? They said Caleb had a minute lead, so it is entirely possible that we've already seen Caleb come through there, and that was Charlie in 2nd. So we'll have to wait and see if we can get an update here before they make it to the finish line.
Well, we'll know in about 2 minutes, according to calculations right now. We continue to wait with bated breath to find out who is going to be the champion of this Maxxis General GNCC today. Will Caleb Russell be able to make up the valuable championship points after that big problem he found in Florida in the opening round of the 2014 season? Like we said, that question and more to be answered here soon, because not only does he have to score well, he has to hope for Charlie and a few of the guys to finish a little further back in order to really make any major gains.
And what a motivator for Caleb, obviously, to have that rough go of it at round 1. Coming in, obviously, he wanted to back up this championship. Charlie, obviously, winning the championship a couple years ago. He wants his championship back. We've got...
leaders heading toward the finish line right now, Johnny Gallagher. Caleb Russell still out front, according to reports. And we will be seeing these guys right here before our very eyes, coming out of that little wood section, if I'm not mistaken, Johnny.
Yeah, they should hop out over that hump. We've got a little water hole, and then it's smooth sailing from there. It's one little straightaway down across the bottom of those woods, and then they've got one chicane, and there's Caleb Russell. We've got our overall leader coming to the finish. Caleb breathing a big sigh of relief right now. Certainly he's counting down the seconds. He knows he's almost there. But what a great ride for him today, and what a way to come back from a disappointing finish in Florida and make up some points today.
Oh, for sure, man. This and a great boost of confidence. A rider that used to just dearly dread the mud and hate it, to see him turn his attitude around about it so much is obviously proof positive that this championship did great things for him as Caleb Russell makes that left-hand turn and takes the checkers to win the Maxxis General GNCC.
We see Caleb hustling through those last couple corners, no doubt a result of the fact that he knows Grant Baylor and Rory Mead are back there somewhere, and he knows he's got to beat them by 61 seconds
well, right
to
now,
make sure he gets that overall.
We're going to see whether or not that is going to be the case now or not as riders continue to motor their way in. By the way, race time, 2 hours and just under the 18-minute mark at 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 54 seconds. We'll be heading down to the Maxxis Victory Lane here shortly with Jen Kenyon, and congratulations to our – whoa, look at that. Guy just comes right into the finish line and falls down.
Seeing Caleb check in there all by himself, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the battle that we had seen previously was Charlie Mullins. We've got Jordan Ashburn. Looks like he's checking in second. And, Rodney, we better refresh that time because there is Grant Baylor. Grant Baylor is getting ready to cross the finish line. What's going to happen with our overall here? He's definitely going to have second. Is he going to get the win?
Second place.
Second place overall.
Wow. So he doesn't break Big Brother's record today, it doesn't look like. Caleb Russell checking in with the win. 2 hours, 17 minutes, 54 seconds. Grant Baylor, 2 hours, 17 minutes, 58 seconds. 4 seconds is what separated those two on elapsed time, man. That sounds like almost like what we saw with Thad Duvall at Snowshoe a few years ago.
Wow. You know, and Grant's certainly obviously happy with that second overall, but you got to be wondering, he's going to be thinking, 4 seconds? 4 seconds, what could I have done for 4? We saw him loop around backwards in the one section. That could have been his 4 seconds right there, but awesome job to him. Hats off to Caleb Russell. Jordan Ashburn with that podium position. Jen had mentioned earlier he's been so close so many times. Congratulations to Jordan. We see him right outside front of the RacerTV studio here. That's his, what a great podium for him today. And we see Caleb Russell getting cleaned up, ready to accept his overall trophy.
Well, the way it looks in the XC1 Pro class, it's Russell, Ashburn, Whibley, 1, 2, and 3. Josh Strang checks in for the number 4 position, and rounding out the top 5 will be Charlie Mullins. There's some of those valuable championship points that you were talking about earlier for at least Charlie. A couple of those guys still able to keep pretty steady, but I think right now the one that Caleb's worried about is Charlie. So he gets about 4 spots on him here in the overall.
While we're talking points here, Rodney, with Paul Whibley, second place finish in Florida, third place here today, he may be our points leader.
Quite possibly.
My quick math tells me we'd be looking at a tie, possibly, between him and Paul Whibley. We'll have to run the math on that here in a minute, but definitely within a point or two, one way or the other, because Charlie would have had a 5th overall today.
Yes, 6th.
6th overall. Oof. 6th overall. I believe that's going to make Paul Whibley our points leader.
Wow, pretty interesting stuff. Still waiting on Rory Mead to check in. I haven't seen him check in yet, but we do have our top 3 overall. We have our top 3 XC1 class riders. We got Jen Kenyon down in the Maxxis Victory Lane. She's going to be talking with some of these guys, and, well, Caleb Russell in particular in just a couple of moments. And we're still watching these guys check in, Johnny, and we auto-refresh here, or we refresh. It's still only the top 6 riders have checked in, so appears to me that, man, those guys were rather elite in these conditions over the rest of the field.
Yeah, definitely these guys went out there and picked the right lines, had the crew showing them where to go, and, put their mud riding skills to the test. And today, Caleb Russell proved to be the best, and Grant Baylor, our best XT2 guy, was good enough for 2nd overall, and that's the first time we've seen an XT2 rider on the podium in a while here.
It's been quite a while, that's for sure. And, again, Russell, Baylor, Ashburn, your top 3 overall.
4 seconds.
And we're going to be heading down to the Maxxis Victory Lane for celebrations here in just a couple of moments. So stand by for that as we continue to watch and still have only, according to my work here, have only seen the top 6 check in. But we'll go down and check in with Jen Kenyon at Victory Lane, the Maxxis Victory Lane, and congratulate a really happy Caleb Russell, I'm sure.
That's right, Rodney. We're down here with our overall winner, Caleb Russell. Caleb, this has to be huge for you coming off a not-so-good finish. You had 7 points in that first round. Talk about how crazy this race was. I know for us fans, it was changing every few seconds. Tell us about your end.
Yeah, I was, last night I was hoping it would hit us hard, the rain. I was looking forward to a mud race. We changed some stuff on the bike, and, it pulled through for me. And Charlie had a pretty, I'm not sure where he finished, but I got some points on him. And, I put myself in these positions to have to win. And, I just got to dig deep and keep plugging away to get this points lead back. But it was a gnarly race. The first lap was chaos, first couple laps actually. And the ruts, you didn't know how deep they were because they were all full of water. So it was really, there's a couple dudes that went over the bars like hard. They just couldn't see how deep the rut was. But I played it smart, just rode around, and Grant was riding awesome, and I kind of got jacked up there. I had to take my goggles off when he got by us, but he was riding really good, and I was able to catch him, and he let me by on the last lap, and I just hammered down and tried to get that minute back, but I was able to do it, and I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, for sure. Now talk about the start there. I noticed that you were the last guy in the first corner, but I didn't see what happened. Did your bike not fire up, or did you just want to let those guys go to be safe?
My bike didn't fire at first, and I knew it was going to be kind of chaos the first few, so I just let everybody go and played it smart, and I had to switch my fan on going down the start straight, so it's still running out. But yeah, it was a good day, and it was fun. I liked it.
All right, well, Caleb Russell, good job out there. Coming into this race, you were hoping for the rain, you got it, and you capitalized on that opportunity, so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to actually head over to our second place overall finisher, first place in the XC2 Pro Lights class. Grant Baylor, you were in the overall lead for a long time. You lost it by 10 seconds to Caleb Russell. You were out there running good. Tell us about your race.
Didn't have the best start. Probably went in the woods about 10th. And by the time we hit the field track, I had already got up to about second and then passed a few more guys in the field. And just put that sorry, I got dirt in my mouth or in my throat. But just charged and pulled the guys by a good bit, and then just come around this corner, and I was in this rut, and the bottom just fell out from under me, and got up in about third and got back going, and just kept getting stuck. Got stuck a few times first lap, and then called up to Rory and passed Rory, and we were actually right behind Charlie and Caleb, and so I knew we were right there in overall, but just kept pushing and got around Rory and passed and left Rory, and just going after the overall, and got out front, and I guess I pulled him a good bit. I couldn't see anybody behind me, and then saw Caleb coming up. I lost my goggles, and they called up to me, and lost my brakes, front and rear. So the last 3 laps I was running with no brakes at all, and just not really good for that. But got stuck a few times that last lap after Caleb got by me, and just lost that minute by a little bit, but come back and try to get it again next time.
Yeah, the Baylor brothers are notorious for breaking records and coming close to them. Between you and your brothers, too, you guys are all over that. You were really close this time, but, a big win in the XC2 class has got to be good for you after not getting so many points last round.
Yeah, I had some bike problems at the last race and felt really good, and, good points day.
Yeah, it was a good job out there. It was an awesome ride, and I know everybody was really excited to see you out in the overall win.
Thank you.
All right, now we are going to make our way to our third place finisher overall, which I think is Jordan Ashburn, but I don't quite know where he is. So, guys, I'm going to send it back up to you, and we'll find out what's going on down here.
All right, thanks a lot, Jen Kenyon, and they get it sorted out down there. But, wow, a day of near historical proportions. Actually, it was still kind of historical in and of itself anyway, I think. I mean, we saw this young lad, 2 of them in the XC2 Pro Lights class, leading physically for a good majority of the race, I would say, honestly, Johnny.
Yeah, with young man Grant Baylor, great job today with his XC1 win, his second overall.
And glad to see he got a haircut, too.
I'll leave that
He
one
was
alone.
looking like Shaggy last year, is the reason I say that.
Yeah, and Jordan Ashburn with the podium. Those guys, both those guys are young. Jordan's not real old himself, and see the young guns up front. Caleb Russell, young as well. Last year's champion, coming back, shooting with the win early in the season, making up for a little bit of his misfortune in Florida.
Well, right now we see the Maxis Victory Lane celebration still going. We see that actually Jen Kenyon is down with, that's Paul Whibley she's with right now, I think. And I believe that Whibley would be third in class. He's 4th overall. And we're still waiting on the word from right there down there to find out what's going on. Want to remind folks, don't forget to find out more about GNCC Racing and when we'll be back with more. The Steel Creek GNCC, the FMF Steel Creek GNCC coming up in just a few weeks. We'll be back with more live coverage from that coming up 2 weeks from now, March 29th and 30th there in Morganton, North Carolina. And, folks, if you haven't ever been to that one or don't know much about it, go to GNCCRacing.com and you'll be able to find out about it and all the great things going on in the world of the Grand National Cross Country Championship Racing. Let's head on back down to the finish line where Jen Kenyon stands by with, I believe, Paul Whibley.
That's right, Rodney. We're here with our 4th place overall finisher, Paul Whibley. Paul, I was just talking with you. It sounds like it was a chaotic day. Nobody really knew what was going on, but a 4th place finish has got to be pretty solid for you.
Yeah, it was really good. Like you say, I had no idea really what was going on today. I think I was leading at some points of the race, and then you go through a mud hole, and then there'd be 3 guys in front of you, and it's just one of those days. You just got to keep going and survive and just have fun.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like a survival race out there. Talk about the track conditions up here just before the finish line. It looked like things were pretty bad, and we got reports that might have been the worst part of the track. Is that true? How were the woods?
It was all pretty much the same. It was just water lying in the deep ruts, and you couldn't really tell which was the deepest and which was the best line. So just kind of trying to be smart and trying to pick good lines and trying to remember it for the lap later. But, yeah, it was pretty much just survival. Just have fun.
You know, talk about the starts. Last year we saw you, the past few years, we've seen you go out and get all those hole shots. Today you were battling out, but your teammate Josh Strang on his Yamaha, he's gotten the last 2. So we're starting to think that although you're a good hole shotter, maybe that blue bike has something to do with crossing the line first.
Yeah, they are. They're really good at starting. Obviously, I need to work on my starts again a little bit more this year because if Josh is taking all the money, well, I'd like some of that back. So, yeah, no, it is like the Yamaha was. He does start up really fast, so it's a good thing to be on.
So it's going to be the battle between New Zealand and Australia. You guys are going to be battling out for the $250 hole shot award, huh?
Yeah, and I'm sure Jordan will be up there as well on his bike, so it'll be good.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're still waiting for Jordan. He had an awesome ride today, so it sounds like it's a really solid day for the Empro Yamaha team.
Yeah, I guess we got 2 podiums in the women's class and 2 podiums in the XC1 class. So yeah, good day for the Yamaha.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good job to you today. 4th place overall, 3rd place.